Hello, friends. Do you have a moment so that we may discuss our Lord and Savior Minarchy? No, seriously, I'm just kidding. Hi, my name's Rick Robinson. I am the general manager of KLRNradio.com. We are probably the largest independent podcast network that you've never heard of. We have a little bit of everything, and by that, what I mean to tell you is we have news, pop culture, special events, conspiratainment, true crime, mental health shows, drama productions, and pretty much everything in between. So if you're looking for a new podcast home to grab a little bit of everything that you love all in one place, come check us out. You can find us on X under @KLRNradio. You can find us on our Rumble and our YouTube channels under the same names. You can also find us at KLRNradio.com and pretty much every podcast catcher known to man. So again, feel free to come check us out anytime you like at KLRNradio.
Are you ready to reach for the stars? Tune in to The Lost Wanderer, the #1 monthly podcast on good pods in astronomy. Join our host, Jeff, as he takes you on an interstellar adventure to explore the mysteries of space and the wonders of science. From rocket launches and distant galaxies to the latest discoveries in astronomy, each episode is a thrilling ride through the cosmos. Don't just gaze at the stars, come explore the universe with us. Follow The Lost Wanderer wherever you get your podcasts, and let's discover the stars together.
Hi everyone, this is JJ, the co-founder of Good Pods. If you haven't heard of it yet, Good Pods is like Goodreads or Instagram, but for podcasts. It's new, it's social, it's different, and it's growing really fast. There are more than 2 million podcasts, and we know that it is impossible to figure out what to listen to. On Good Pods, you follow your friends and podcasters to see what they like. That is the #1 way to discover new shows and episodes. You can find Good Pods on the web or download the app. Happy listening.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
The following program contains coarse language and adult themes. Listener discretion is advised.
Yesterday, December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy.
Achieving the goal before this decade is out of landing a man on the moon and returning him safely to the earth. We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other thing, not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it on to our children in the bloodstream. The only way they can inherit the freedom we have known is if we fight for it, protect it, defend it, and then hand it to them with the well-taught lessons of how they in their lifetime must do the same. All is lost again, but I'm not giving up. I will not bow, I will not break, I will show the way.
And welcome into Thursday night programming here on KLRNradio.com. Hopefully you guys are coming back in from Disasters in the Making, which just wrapped up here. This is Jen and Rick. I'm Jen, she's Rick, and you're not. And we're live on KLRN Radio. And coming up after us, we're going to go over to SHR Media's crew and hang out with BZ in BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon. Our very own programming director, Jeff, a.k.a. @ACosmicBard, is hanging out over there in the bar tonight. So that should be fun. All right. So anyway, without further ado, my co-host is here. We came in hot, so I think she can hear everything now. How you doing, Miss Jen? How are you?
I'm good. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you.
Okay, good. Yeah, it wasn't a It wasn't connecting correctly today. So, and I was in a little bit of a rush because we have a late night on Thursdays with practices and stuff. So it's a dash to get dinner on and then for me to get in here. So, but
I
I'm
thought
glad to be here.
I'm glad you're here too, because today's been a day.
It certainly has.
Dude, I have so many problems with how all of this went down, and it would have been so easily to avoid it because the Attorney General of the United States of America was on a news talk show last night and
Certainly.
could have simply said, when he asked, "When are we going to be able to see the Epstein files?" She could have said, "Well, you guys may not know this, but Ghislaine Maxwell has filed an appeal, so that may delay some of it. I have a lot of it on my desk, and I've been reaching out to the field office that was handling things there and asking them to double check to see if I have all of the information, and I haven't gotten a response that I'm satisfied with yet. So once I do, you guys will know." And then she could have acted all tough today and sent the letters and stuff out like she did today to show us that she was trying to get us the information instead of, "Oh yeah, we're gonna drop some stuff and it's gross and you're not gonna like it." And then they do the whole posing with fucking influencers. Jeez, we mocked the last crew for doing this. Why is it okay when we do it? Just I
Everything about today was
was retarded.
frustrating and cringy, and, I think too, there could possibly be a scenario here where there's a little bit of blustering going on about the whole there was a whistleblower who said that the FBI is withholding files, and it could really be that they're withholding files that still pertain to Ghislaine Maxwell's case that is, in the Supreme Court now. The brief was filed in January of 2025, so there are things that they know cannot be released because it's an ongoing case in this moment anyways. It may not be so nefarious. Of course, we never put it past the FBI to be nefarious. I'm just saying it sheds a little bit different light on how all of this is going, as opposed to just, I told them to give it to me and they didn't do it. And then it being like, oh, wait, but I mean, did the Attorney General of the United States not know that, first of all, most of what they released today has been available for years? There's, like,
Apparently
a small snippets, and by the way, some of what you can go on to a couple different websites that have been, hosting these documents since, like, 2020, where everything's unredacted. It's not even redacted. It's been out there unredacted this whole time because none of this really is anything more than, necessary filings for court, right? It's not there's no real information in there, that is anything that we didn't already know. There's an evidence list that we hadn't seen before. There's a few things like that, but for the most part, this was a huge nothing burger. And to put it in a cute little binder and have a photo off in front of the White House for certain influencers slash right journos, I don't know what you want to call them, was just weird and gross. And initially, before we found out what they actually were, um, it was gross to me that I was like, "Okay, so if we thought this truly was some of the real files, then you selected these people to Cernovich to come in and get these, and then they get to profit off it by putting it out on X and making bank for all the views and clicks they're gonna get." I mean, like you said, we have more than made fun of Brooklyn Dad, JoJo from Jers, Harry Sasson, like all of those people for having access to the White House, being able to put out, you know, ooh, like breaking information and exclusive content, because they got to be in with the Biden team, and we all went, "Oh, this is so weird. This is so cringe. Oh, I don't like this. Oh, they're paying them." This was no different. And some will go, "No, no, no. Our people were journalists." Well, but they're self-made journalists, so it's not like you're like, "Oh no, it was someone that worked for the New York Post and then decided to go out on their own and launch their own website." These are people that started with Twitter followings, pretty much, majority of them. Like it's just it's so hypocritical. It's gross when they do it. It's gross when we do it. If anything, you were going to say, "Oh, we need people on the right," then let's give it to some hard hitting right leaning journalists that work for places like, I don't know, Red State. How about that? You
Red State, Town Hall, The Blaze. I mean, come on.
put
There's
put a Jen Van Laar in there on this, and I will be rocking it all day long. Like, it was the type of people that it was. I don't know. And I know there were more than what we just saw, like, initially named and featured that are a little that kinda did their due diligence being pretty serious about it and didn't take pictures and didn't get all, giddy, flashy with it. But it was just embarrassing. I think everything about how they handled this today was embarrassing. And I think if Pam Bondi really has been talking all of this, really, she's been hyping up and been so boastful about how they're going to do this and get it done and what's going to happen and da da da. And she didn't realize that, first of all, we didn't have all the files because yesterday she said, I have them and you're not going to believe what's in them. And then, okay, well, you didn't because this is something that's already been released. And then, secondly, didn't know that there's going to be a huge chunk that cannot be released if they are still related at all to the case that Ghislaine Maxwell still has pending on appeal to the Supreme Court of the United States. That could be years from now. And if she didn't know, then she should resign because that's just an egregious overlook.
Yeah,
I mean, that's just outrageous.
this is just a bad look everywhere. It just is. And the thing about it is there was so much momentum that was kind of building off of everywhere. I mean, you even watched Congress, the House, and even though I don't agree with some of what's in the framework, what Johnson did to get that framework across the finish line was fucking masterful because he didn't have the votes. So he said, "Hey, we're pulling it. We're going home," and then they never gavelled out.
Yeah.
And then they called for a vote after a bunch of people had started trying to leave. And I mean, it's while it's not something that I would necessarily usually support or agree with some of the shit the other side's done, I don't mind if we start playing by some of their same rules. But when this kind of stuff is going on, I think it's not even really the influencer pictures and everything else that kind of went all through me today. When I saw one of the major Republican groups in Congress post a link and it turned out to be a fucking Rickroll, I was livid.
Seriously, basically on any other topic but this, they could have done that and it would have gone over very well and I would have laughed my ass off. But we're talking about human trafficking. We're talking about not just potentially human trafficking, but child trafficking and child porn and rape of minors. Like that is so egregious. It's not to be joked about. It's not, it's just not the time. It's not the time. And it was disgusting. The smiling and the being giddy with the binders was disgusting. It's just such a piss poor way to handle.
Uh-oh. I think we lost Jen.
No, I'm here.
Oh, yeah, we lost you after you said it's just a piss poor way to act, and that was it.
Oh, just to handle it all of it.
Okay. Yeah, I guess you cut out for a second, but I'm glad you're still here because sometimes when G cuts out, he doesn't come back for like 5 minutes, and I'm like riffing.
No,
Everybody's internet's been weird lately. I don't know. I blame all the weird weather we've been having.
I had to mute real quick because I had to yell at my kid.
That makes sense.
So I hit mute too soon, I guess. I thought I hit it at the end of my sentence, but
You were
I'm like,
close.
get in bed.
Go to bed.
He's got a big presentation tomorrow. They do a 5th grade project, and each kid has to do. They've already done an essay that they've turned in. Now they have to do a presentation, and it's not just for their classes. Like they do it for, and it has to be some sort of community impact or something they're passionate about that then they can what they call take an action on to like help. So he did like how animals are affected by pollution and it's somewhat ties in with endangered, but he loves animals, so it's kind of about how we need to keep our trash cleaned up and the pollution out of the sea and like all of that kind of stuff for the betterment of the animals, and then fight poachers and all that kind of thing, just all the things that threaten animals that we can actually help, that aren't just us living and existing and eating them. And anyways, he's got a big presentation tomorrow. So he's been working. He did his own Google slideshow. He did a action thing where he got the entire school to compete on picking up trash all around their area of their school, and the grade levels all competed to see who could pick up the most trash, which was really cool. So he's being recognized by the district tomorrow. So he needs to get a good night's sleep.
Well, look at that. The
I know.
Krypton carrying on.
He got chosen for to be one of the special highlighted 5th graders that the district's gonna come see, and they're gonna do a whole little thing about it. Anyways.
It still freaks me out that Bug is in 5th grade.
Me too. Me too. I wake up and I expect to hear "Mom," and him be like 2 years old. And I'm like, "Oh, no, I went to middle school information night the other night."
Oh
So,
boy.
yay.
Oh boy.
I know. I don't wanna leave elementary school. It's
I
so
know, right?
cozy and comfy.
Well, I'm used to. I don't like change.
Ugh. Anyways. So, yeah, I just think that they handled this so poorly, and again, if in fact she's been out there bragging about what they're gonna do and claiming that they have this and they have that, and then she's chastising the FBI over these files, and it turns out that she had no clue that some of it cannot be released in any time soon anyways. That is so ridiculous. Shame on her staff, shame on her, shame on the administration for not one single person cluing that in. But that's just extreme oversight. Like that it's just really inexcusable as the attorney general for one of the biggest cases that you've been touting and touting and touting, and the co-defendant, well, not truly co-defendant, but the accomplice, who is also a defendant, is still in the middle of an appeal, and so therefore some of the materials may not be usable for release. It's mind-blowing to me that you could possibly not know that.
Well, and I mean, I could see this if it was a thing like, making Pete Buttigieg, Secretary of, Transportation because he never fucking done anything before other than be a shitty mayor. But she's been an attorney general of a state, so she should at least be somewhat familiar with some of this stuff. And that's weird now that Brad's dog's not barking in my ear. Now my own dog is barking in my ear.
Yeah, I don't know. I
But yeah,
just I find that to be pretty pretty egregious.
yeah, I mean, all of it is, and I mean, the funny thing is, up until this, it's been nothing but just like solid, good things coming up everywhere. Because you've got the I can't even think of his name. The old dude, the Raging Cajun. I can't think of his actual real name. Who's been going around telling all the Democrats, just look at the poll numbers, they're collapsing. Just stop pushing so hard and just sit back and relax, and it'll be our turn in a couple of years. And we're looking at the actual numbers, going, "Are you seeing the same thing that we're seeing?" And then you've got the mainstream media falling apart, like in the Lester Holt's gone from NBC Nightly News. First of all, I didn't even know he's still alive, much less still doing a show. Joy Reid has gone from MSDNC. They
Joy
just
Reid!
they just fired all of Mad Cow's staff, but like two people after she went on her racist rant. So I'm pretty sure she's on the way out the door next. I mean, it's just
Well,
everything with
and then
everything
you've
that's
got
coming up goes this
CNN that in order to try to still maintain some semblance of balance over there, they put Scott Jennings up with 4 or 5 others to gang up on him every time.
yeah, and now
I
he's
love how
got
they're
these
like, "This is a
stories.
balanced panel," and I'm like, "It's literally Scott against all of them," and it's hilarious because he's got the best gig. He gets paid and he's so good, his composure's so great. He gets paid to sit there and just call them on their inconsistencies, ask them questions to clarify their points or back up their claims, and they cannot do it. They get so flustered, they get so pissed at him. He's like, okay. Well, that's not what you said. No, I literally never said that. You literally just said that. But okay, if you want to then explain your position, he's just so measured and perfect with it. Like I hope he never leaves because the clips that we get to be entertained by on a daily basis as they lose their minds when he and it's literally 4 or 5 on one, and they
Yeah,
act like he's the bully and
this
he's
is
the one
this is
ganging
like
up on them, and I'm like, well, when his IQ is double the total of the rest of you, I mean,
yeah,
kind of isn't a fair
this
match.
is like the reverse 5, and it's working, I think, about how they were hoping the liberal on the panel was gonna be able to do stuff on the 5, but yeah, because, I mean, he's literally, like, living his best life right now. Because
Oh my gosh, it is
he's actually
amazing.
given a couple interviews about it, and he's like, "It's great. I just repeat their information back to them, and then they blow up."
Oh, it is so funny how it's not even just repeating it back, but they dance around it because they do not have any ability to discuss anything beyond just the general talking points. So they're like, well, and because we don't want him to shred the Constitution, how's he shredding the Constitution? And then they do this whole thing where they act
Do you
so
need
bad.
it?
They're like, oh, like
Well, my
you need us to spell it out for you, and you're like, yeah, you're the one making the claim. And they're like, oh, and they just act so fed up and like he's so ridiculous and so dumb. Like,
yeah,
oh my gosh, I can't even count all the ways. Okay, well then just give me 2 ways.
yeah,
I mean, he'll do that.
my favorite part of that whole exchange is, "What do you need, a civics lesson?"
Yeah, yeah,
I'm
but they
like,
can't they literally just speak in generic terms, and they gobbledygook word salad through everything, and then they're like, what do you mean?" I mean, they just any simple question, they cannot answer beyond and they're like and they just repeat what they said sometimes as if that's gonna clarify, and he's like, "No, I heard you the first time, but go beyond that." But it's literally daily. Like it is so entertaining to watch, and the way he just goes, "Okay," and I'm really interested in this conversation. I love when he says that. I really want to get back to that because I really want to know what you mean by. The best one was and he wants control of the military, and he's like, he's the commander in chief. Well, right, but I mean, that doesn't mean that he gets to go he's like, "No, what do you mean?" "Yeah, he's the commander in chief. That actually means he's in control of the military." "Well, no, but, like, not like a dictator." Um, he's the commander in chief. I mean, it's a joy. It's amazing.
it's been so much fun to watch,
It's like Twitter come to life.
which is amazing.
You know what I mean? Like, that's how I feel like with some of these leftists sometimes when they come, "That's not what I said," and also, "That's what you said, and now you're contradicting yourself, and can you explain to me beyond just your frantic screeching, um, what exactly you mean by this, and this?" And they never can. They can never back up anything. They just regurgitate talking points. So it is. It's kind of like Twitter come to life. It's hilarious.
My favorite question that I had somebody ask me in the daily chat the other day when I was talking about the Behar thing is, "What is Joy gonna do now that she can't afford her weekly wig payment?" Have you
I
seen all the rugs this woman has? Like,
well, that's why
Gene put together a best of reel, and I swear I started counting by the end of the reel, it was like 20, 30 different hairstyles. I'm like, "Holy crap, how many rugs this woman got?"
that's why there's so many times where I'm like, I can't even I I I'll be flipping by or I'll see a clip, as I scroll on Twitter or something, and I sometimes don't even recognize that it's her because it can be different day to day. So I'm like, I oh, that was some blonde. Oh no, that's Joy Reid. Oh, that was some. No, that's Joy Reid. You know what I mean? You can't even recognize her because of it. So it's not good branding.
Yeah. I mean, well, I guess it depends on the brand you're trying to build, but I don't know. Then again, I mean, let's face it, most of these people have been being propped up by our own tax money for so long, and we suspected it. We just didn't know for sure, but it's pretty obvious now because now that they're coming after all those little honeypots, everybody's getting fired.
Okay, speaking of honeypots, did you
Uh-huh.
see what happened with the we haven't seen anything actual yet, but we saw him walking to the elevator and out of the restaurant. The reports about Swalwell being hammered and uh I don't know if it was Veritas or if it was Veritas-esque something or other, and he started running his mouth like he was tipsy and started running his mouth, and you could see very easily how he got honeypotted by a
Oh
Chinese
yeah.
spy.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I saw that. That was great. I'm still waiting on the one of the dude that like dropped the video of him exiting says he has like a lot of other footage and he keeps saying he's gonna drop it. And I'm like, quit being a tease, motherfucker.
Yeah, this is one of those things I really hate, kind of like dropping the files. I'm like, either drop them or don't. And that, by the way, that was one of my other. Sorry to go back to this, but my other big thing was people were like, "Well, I mean, he's just trying to stick it to the legacy media, to the mainstream media," and I'm like, "No, you don't do that by giving it to libs of TikTok or Cernovich. You do that by just releasing it directly from the DOJ. That's how you do it. You literally just upload it to a website and you share the link on all social media platforms from the government account. You do not need to release it to anybody. Some guy was arguing with me that, like, well, they'll just spin it. So if you want to release it to if you release it to the other media outlets, this is why he released it to people he can trust. And I'm like, I'm sorry. He's trusting people that have got popular on Twitter since 2020. It's just a weird concept. And that's no different than what you would complain about on the left and what Biden would do with something like that. We would lose our minds if they were like, we're going to let, um, what's his face? David Hogg have these files and he's going to be the one to release them all. We would have all lost our shit. And there is a way to do it. Just the government releases it directly. We don't need to go through anybody else. So that was what initially was like concerning. And then they did release it. But when they showed the influencers with the binders and with all of that, it seemed like they were going to do it Twitter file style, and which was very different than what this is. That was great, but like it was very different than what this is. And they were going to trickle it out and let all these people profit. And it was just that was not it. But I hate the teasing and the hinting and the slow drip. Just drop what you've got or not, or shut up. So same thing with the swallow thing. Like the produce it. Don't just keep talking about it. Produce it or shut up. Because I'm starting to not believe that you are um that you're being truthful about what the exchange
Yeah,
was.
I'm starting to believe you don't have the things that you say you have.
Or you just over exaggerated it. You know what I mean? Like he started tweeting immediately. So like maybe he would like in the moment he's like, "Oh, and I got him here and he admitted this and he was wasted." And then we see him walking, he doesn't look drunk. But okay. It doesn't mean he didn't have 4 or 5 drinks, but it's not like he was stumbling around and like being belligerent. So,
There were a couple times you could tell from his facial expressions he was kinda tipsy, but I don't
I
think it
mean,
was anywhere near what they made it out to be.
yeah, he was blackout wasted or whatever. I'm like, okay. I mean, you know that congressmen are allowed to get drunk too. No, they're not
But then
allowed to get
again
drunk and spill secrets, but he's
then
already been
again,
stripped of one of his committees. So,
if he was talking that much shit and he wasn't drunk, then that means he's even easier to get information out of, I'm just
I
saying.
mean, the thing is like, I don't know how this man's still in Congress, anyways. He literally got honeypotted by a Chinese spy. Like, this
I
is
I don't even
ridiculous.
I don't even understand how the dude still has security clearances. But
It's ridiculous.
did you see what happened with Jon Stewart this week?
No, what?
Okay, hang on, let me get it queued up. That way everybody can watch it. Watch this. This is funny.
And 10 is all of them, right? It would be embarrassing if it was a small drop in the bucket and that the American people didn't expect that we should negotiate for all their f***ing drugs because we've already paid for it with our subsidies. Are you f***ing saying?
Oh my God.
I'll be going to the hospital soon.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I mean, the scariest thing about this is he tried to do something that he tried to pull off as funny, and it just shows exactly how broken they really are. Which is another thing that makes me so mad because all today did was give a bunch of ammunition to the left. Like speaking of Swalwell, he was one of the motherfuckers that was like, "You were promised the full Epstein list, and you got this," and he dropped a fucking fully redacted page, and I'm like, "Listen, fuckstick McGee, you didn't do shit with it either, so this probably isn't the victory lap you should be trying to take." I'm just saying.
Right. Yeah, it does feel like giving them a lot of ammunition, but it is what it is. I think uh when whenever anything like that, I said the same thing when they said, "Oh, I'm gonna sign this now for the release of the MLK files and of JFK." And on one hand, I was hesitant to get too excited. Everybody's chatting about it, everybody's texting each other, all that stuff, getting super excited, even though they were knowing it wasn't going to come out very quickly. Um, but I was like, just be really prepared for disappointment because, first of all, what they will release is probably still going to be redacted to a certain degree. And then, second of all, um, everybody's, especially with JFK and with Epstein, like everybody's built up so many conspiracy theories, and there's so much that we question, and so much that, oh, this doesn't make sense, that doesn't make sense. And so we've heard all of these different angles and stories and things and speculation. And so don't be surprised when we get the real deal that it's just not as crazy as we've made it out to be in our heads,
Well,
you know? So it just won't be satisfying.
well, the weirdest part about that, right, is they already started talking about they were releasing a bunch of stuff, and I guess some senators and Congress critters already had access to some of the information. And one of the Congress critters posted something that said, "At this point, I've seen enough evidence to lead me to believe that there was, in fact, a second shooter involved with JFK." And it didn't even make a blip on the fucking news feed.
No. But
I'm
at the
like,
same time, like that, there have been documentaries that have explained how that could be. There's documentaries that have explained how it could have been someone in the cars. There's documentaries that could explain, these are all things that have been out there, that have been studied, that have been, and anybody that's really interested in this stuff has heard and seen it all. And so when it's actually, released, first of all, they may not have put what their actual conclusion was in the fucking files to begin with. If it is a government secret, like they just may not have even put it in there. But you also fall into that trap of, because there's been so much hype and so much conspiracy around specifically these two cases, that nothing is going to satisfy. So even if they are 100% giving us everything and telling the truth, there's going to be a large portion of the public that is going to say, no, now that's a cover up. Now that's we'll make a new conspiracy theory off of this. They lied. They didn't give us all of it. They've still got other information back somewhere. There's always going to be that, with anything like this that seems so sketch.
I wish I could say you're wrong, but unfortunately you're not.
I mean, we could find out that Jackie orchestrated JFK's death, and there would be people that would be like, "Oh, it's a cover up."
Dude,
And we'd be like, we literally gave you bombastic evidence.
one of the most interesting theories that I've heard was actually floated by Jeff. I don't think the timeline matches very well, but after everything that we found out about USAID, he was like, the irony of this is it could turn out that Kennedy was actually assassinated by the very group that he helped create with an executive order.
I mean, there's all kinds of things like that where it's like, this would not really be, it's not too far-fetched necessarily. I do think, though, that it's a little bit simpler than what any of us are making it out to be, and so therefore it is going to be kind of like a womp womp. Like, okay, yes, it's confirmation of a few things, and so that's good, and it was put into motion by XYZ, but that it's just not going to be as enthralling as all of us want it to be. What was I was gonna I don't know. I lost my train of thought. I was going somewhere else after that, but I forgot.
So, the next thing that I thought might be kind of interesting to discuss is, did you see or hear what happened with the White House Correspondents Association?
Maybe. What one are you talking about?
So the president of the WHCA completely lost his shit yesterday.
What happened?
So this is actually from our friends at Town Hall. The White House Correspondents Association isn't taking the new tweaks to the press bull too well. Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt announced that it's a new day. The WHCA will not handle who gets access to the president anymore. The Trump White House will do it. It's a move that triggered a tantrum among the legacy press, all of whom have tried to cast this move as Putin-esque. And then there's actually a post from Stephen Shong. The head of the WHCA just sent a chilling letter to their members, threatening them if they work with the White House new expanded press pool system. He then goes on to say any poll reports from all media organizations that are allowed, including New York Times, Reuters, New York Post, Fox News, should not be trusted.
Oh, where.
Dun, dun, dun. But see, this goes back to one of my biggest complaints about what they made things look like today. Because one of the things that I have thoroughly enjoyed about everything that this administration has been doing is they have wrested the gatekeeper keys away from what I call the zombie media. So the look that they gave today wasn't that we were getting away from the gatekeepers, but that we were handing new people the keys. Because that's exactly what that looked like. Look, they have all this information and you don't, and we're going to leave it up to them to disseminate it. That's exactly what that looked like. That's exactly what that felt like. And
Right,
even
which was a direct parallel to what we've seen on the other side. Like, these are the people that are important enough to be here and be in the know and in the circle.
And well, that's exactly it, because that's a parallel to one of the things that I've been talking about for a long time. Because for the longest time, the only thing that ever really changes when the letter behind the name of the person that gets in charge changes is where the money goes. So now the new currency is information. So it seems they're starting the same patterns. When the D's are in charge, a certain group of people get access to the information. When the R's are in charge, a certain group of people get access to the information. This is not a good look. And if this is what they're going to start trying to do with it, I may have officially become blackpilled after today. Jury's still out a little bit. I'm going to give them until tomorrow to see if they can at least explain better what happened or maybe put some new information out there. I mean, I will say there was like one piece of information out of everything that was dropped today that I actually hadn't seen before. So there was something new for me, but everybody's like, "Yeah, I've seen all this before," and I'm like, "It doesn't really say anything anyway." I mean, I guess that's the thing, because Pam Bondi last night even made it sound like she had access to the flight logs. Okay, so if you have those, then put them out.
But now
That's an
they're acting like that's part of what was being held back by the FBI, and I'm like, "Oh, okay, so you didn't have them, or you haven't seen them, or you have seen them? Because if they're still there and they haven't given them to you, then you haven't seen them. Do you know that they exist? We don't know. That's the
well.
problem."
I will say this: my tinfoil hat spidey senses are going off. I'm gonna say at this point, I'm pretty sure anything that field office had doesn't exist anymore.
Maybe not, but I'm still leaning towards that there is not leaning towards. I still am considering the possibility that they sent over what is allowed um, as of now, which is why it's the only stuff that's been released thus far because of the ongoing appeals case that Ghislaine Maxwell has. So maybe they didn't consider that that was stuff that they had to send over because, well, you can't release it. Like, you can't yet, you know? So that's still a very, very real possibility. I mean, that the appeal with the Supreme Court was just filed in January of 2025. So we're still looking at a year or two, if not longer, before that appeal is settled. Which, ugh.
Yeah, so I mean, the only thing is if there is data that they have that doesn't cross the streams with that, I still want it released. Anything that can't be released, fine. Just explain that it can't be released. But like I said, this should have been a conversation that was had
But that's why
yesterday.
this is a problem because it seems like she doesn't know if that's the case or not.
Well, I
She
mean,
claims she had stuff that she'd seen in her possession, but then today she's saying it's not in her possession. So they were already blustering.
yeah, yeah, no, exactly. And that's why I'm saying this should have been a conversation that she either had last night when she was on with Waters, or as soon as she figured out what was going on today, she should have called a fucking press conference and got out in front of it
Yeah.
before these retread drops started happening.
Ugh, gosh,
And
so annoying.
it would have been such a much better situation, especially what she really should have done was contacted Cash Patel and said, "Hey, look, this is what's going on. I've reached out to that office. I reached out to you. I need you to get down there and find out what I need you to get over there and find out what's going on. And
Yeah.
this is when I'm having a press conference. I expect you to be there and have everybody locked out of that fucking office before I go hot mic." That's exactly what should have happened. They should have just thrown everybody out of the office, locked it down, and found out what was there, what wasn't there, see if they could find any evidence that things had been deleted or destroyed, and move on from there. I mean, and even Al pointed out a few weeks ago that what they should have done as soon as everything changed hands was sent the military and everybody down into those offices where they had the data and just threw everybody out and found out what was there and just went on about their day. Because the thing about it is, one of few things is happening. And it could also even be in praise the Bauer of Anne. She's not ready for this position, so she's in over her head. I find again with her being a attorney general in Florida, I find that a little hard to believe. Or there really is some deep embedded resistance with all this crap. And if there is, we've got to get that stopped, or none of this is going to work.
Yeah, I don't think that it's I'm in over my head as in I can't do my job and I'm out of my depth. I think it could just be in over my head as in I'm getting fed a lot of information at once and I wasn't careful about this and didn't look into all the details before going ahead and, you know, bloviating about it. So, there's the administration has been hitting these first couple weeks that or the first few weeks, and now into a month later has just been fire after fire after fire of amazing, kind of in your face, knock down the door, kick out the trash kind of situation. So, you could see like getting caught up in all of that. And now one of the big things has been about the Epstein files, and that was one of the campaign promises. And so you could see how it's like, oh wait, we're getting documents sent over. Okay, awesome. No, so it has all the stuff, and just not really being thorough about it in the midst of everything going on. I'm not saying that that's a good excuse. I'm saying that I could see how that could happen.
Yeah, I mean, all of it kind of makes sense.
Oh, by the way, okay, sorry. Next, switching gears here a little bit.
Sure.
Did you see? And it kind of goes along with the press thing because I think one of the things that the press, you're talking about the White House changes for the White House press corps. I think what's really annoying is they're like, oh, what we without a free press, we don't have democracy. No, there's still press in there. And by the way, every single president has denied or given privileges to their White House and to different events and to different press conferences. So there was a whole period of time there where only one or two people that were employed by Fox News or any of its subsidiaries were allowed anywhere close to a president under Obama and Biden at various points in time. I mean, this is not crazy unusual and it's not anti First Amendment. You can say that it's not, you don't like the way it is because of the traditional decorum of it all. I mean, okay, but there is I'm not thrilled about having just any right-wing self-proclaimed reporter up in there, but I do think that there is room for new media, and I think there should be, and there should have been a long time ago because whether it's left or right or centrist or a tech blog or whatever, there's all kinds of little niches with this stuff. I think that that market has been big and growing for a long time now, the better part of 2 decades, and the the press corps surrounding the White House, surrounding any given administration, has stayed extremely tight and closed, and I think that it's good for that to change.
Well, so I'm just going to be completely honest here for a second. If you want to talk about some sort of like, dictatorish type response to how the White House press corps works, a couple things about the previous administration. They revoked a total of 455 hard passes from the White House press corps. Even with the ones that they still allowed in the room, there were a handful that were always pre-approved, pre-screened, and allowed to ask
Yes.
questions. You want to start talking about dictatorial type stuff going on with the press? There's where it is. When you give the illusion of there being a free press and everybody's allowed in the room, but the only people that are going to be called on were pre-screened, pre-picked, and already had the questions they were
And
allowed to
approved
ask in
questions.
their hand.
Yeah.
That's some bullshit right there. So
Yeah.
the fact that
And they
this
all went,
administration
"Don't
isn't
worry,
pushing
nothing
back
to
on
see
that.
here, nothing to see." And you're like, "What?"
Well, the fact that with as much as this comes up, that nobody in the administration is pushing back on everything we know the last administration was doing. I mean, I haven't even heard Scott Jennings really pushing back with that yet. And I'm like, he's the one that I really would have expected to be doing it because he's actually had a couple of people bring that up, and I would have been like, look, you want to talk to me about things changing with the White House press corps? Let's talk about a president who only allowed a handful of people to ask questions, and they were pre-approved to ask the question, and then they were given the question they were supposed to be asking.
Yeah. I mean, it really it's just that this is a whole lot of nothing. I mean, I can see how people could be like, well, but it's just kind of going against the tradition of the White House press corps room and all that kind of stuff. And you're like, okay, so what? But so feel that way if you want about it. I just don't see this as some. Now, if all he was doing was putting a bunch of Laura Loomers in there, then yeah, I'd be like, this is freaking weird and gross. But there's a lot of other ways to get the news on what they do. They're still going to have cameras that are going to carry it on all the networks, regardless of if your reporter's in there to ask their question. So it's not really an issue of free press. But along those lines, did you see what Bezos released yesterday about the Washington Post?
Oh, yes.
Oh, yes. I mean, just this last paragraph. I'm confident that free markets and personal liberties are right for America. I also believe these viewpoints are underserved in the current market of ideas and news opinion. I'm excited for us together to fill that void. I believe these viewpoints are underserved in the current market. Yeah, they have been because they've been stamped out because it's been overrun by liberal editors and writers and reporters. I mean, so for anybody who doesn't know, Bezos still owns WAPO. And he was talking about a change that's coming to their opinion pages. So he said, we're going to be writing every day in support and defense of two pillars, personal liberties and free markets. We'll cover other topics too, of course, but viewpoints opposing those pillars will be left to be published by others. So again, people went, oh my God, free speech, free press. Well, no, you can gear your publication any way you want to. I mean, we don't say that it's anti-free speech and free press because Ranger Rick won't publish a political opinion piece. I mean, no. This is what we're gearing this publication towards, his animals and little kid articles. So he can gear it towards whatever he wants. I think that the point is that we're still continuing to see this correction happening of people going, okay, it went way too far. And that's what lost because, Trump still had the appeal to a good chunk of people, but so much of his win wasn't so much just about him. It was about how far the left pushed left. They went so radical. They let their most far left radical members take control of the party to push the agendas, to infiltrate all of the circles. And regular America, even ones that are Democrats, are saying that it's too far. I'm trying to hang on, but it's just too much. I have several friends that are like, if you've lost me, then you don't have a chance in hell and you lost me. So I think this is another way of like under the way that the status quo was before. Um, People didn't feel comfortable pushing back. People didn't feel comfortable. I mean, other journalists, other editors, other news media owners didn't feel comfortable without being labeled right wing, and they were so scared of that. Now I don't think they care. I think Bezos doesn't care right now. Newspapers are dying, and if he wants to keep it afloat, he can't just push far leftist bullshit, and he knows that. So it's not so much of a I believe in something so different. I think he states clearly here that he does believe in those things, but it's also that we're now going to stand for them and that this is the way I want this to be run. And I'm not going to be overrun by the lunatics that are on the fringe that demand to be heard, seen, and spoken for at every twist and turn and still cry about it no matter what. We're just done with that. So we're going to go with the focus that is more appealing to the rest of America and can possibly save print.
Nice. So to back up for a second, only because you kind of piqued my interest with something talking about how all the left is talking about this goes against White House press norms, etc. A little bit of history of how the press used to work in the White House. There were no such thing as really like formal press conferences, anything else until about the 1920s. That's when they became the primary form of direct presidential communication with the American people.
They
By the
finally had
time
radio.
Yeah, so by the time we fast forward a little bit, up until then, they did them usually about once or twice a week. They were usually happening in what was then called the Indian Treaty Room. The actual press room that they have now was a pool until 1961. I'm sorry, 1960. Was it 63? I think. Yeah, so 1963 to 1969, President Lyndon B. Johnson changed the nature of press conferences by including impromptu sessions where reporters might ask a few questions rather than the formal forums held in the Indian Treaty Room or State Department. In 1969, the White House Office of Communications was established. So in 1969 to 1970, the creation of the James S. Brady Press Briefing Room, which is where they still hold them today, which by the way used to be the White House pool. Like that's actually where
Right.
the swimming pool was, which is why if you've ever seen the room when it looks, especially when it's empty, it still looks really really small because it used to be a pool. But the thing about it is, we're talking about stuff that's really only existed for a little over 100 years, and let's not forget that until Reagan took office, by the time they actually established the actual press pool room, between that time and Reagan taking office, it was the fucking Thunderdome. Everybody was screaming and yelling, jumping, waving hands, all of the above. And Reagan's press set came in on day one and said, no, 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 none of this shit. Sit down and raise your fucking hands. Not in those words, of course. Couldn't say things like that back then on TV. But it's
Right.
basically that's basically what he said. I'm not going to speak to a single one of you until you sit down, shut up, and raise your hands. And that's when we actually started establishing a little bit of decorum in the press room. So it's not like there hasn't been sweeping changes on how we do things. As a matter of fact, John F. Kennedy's briefing style is a lot like Donald Trump's briefing style, if you've ever watched any of the tapes and listened to the recordings, because he was one of the people that would just, hey, come in and sit down in the Oval Office. Not very many presidents do that. I mean, Donald Trump so far has answered like 1,009 questions in his first month in office this time. He's like even eclipsing his record from his first month in office the first time.
Yeah.
This is just nuts. So this whole idea of how everything that they're doing is bucking tradition and doing this and doing that. You know, the one thing I say to that, even if they are, what is Einstein's definition of insanity? Doing the same things over and over again and expecting different results. That's what we have watched play out my entire life. The party in charge, the letter behind their name changes, but everything else stays the fucking same. And we have been steadily steering towards this cliff. And a lot of us understood it was happening, but we didn't really understand why. Now we've got people actually lifting up the hood. Now we've got people peeking behind the curtains. And we're seeing all of these mechanisms that have been in place for forever and continue to run no matter who's in charge, which I think is a lot of the same stuff that Strzok and Page were talking about. They were like, it doesn't really matter if he becomes president. We have the insurance policy for one. And for two, we're probably going to be able to get him out. I think part of what they were talking about was this entrenched bureaucracy that runs everything and nothing really changes because you've seen it caught on tape over and over and over again. Oh, yeah, the folks at my level, we're like 10, 12 steps away from the president and we're 5 or 6 steps away from the department heads. And we don't do what they say most of the time anyway, because they'll come to us and say, we'll get a memo from them and it says we should do this. And then we'll send them an email back and be like, well, maybe we should do this, 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 and this. And then they usually take our advice and then it all changes anyway. This is the stuff we're trying to get away from because this is how things have been being run into the ground.
I mean, but didn't we know that? Like, I mean, I know we all had really high hopes, but didn't we know that there was going to be a lot of things that would stay the same?
Well, yeah. I mean, but that's just it. Up
I mean, you
until
can't completely drain it all.
Well, yeah, I mean, up until today, though, I really felt like we were on a really good trajectory. Now I'm starting to have major concerns because when you've got the Attorney General of the United States who doesn't understand how a Supreme Court appeal works, apparently, that concerns me.
I know. Yeah, that today was definitely the worst day since he took office. I'll see how it pans out, here and smooths out over the next week or so. There's still been a lot of good being done, living up to a lot of the promises made, or at least setting a plan in motion to be able to live up to those promises. So I'm good with. I'm still good overall with the direction, but today was just a clusterfuck. It
Oh,
was
yeah, I
just
mean,
everything was mishandled, and it was just a mess.
I'm not ready to slash wrists or anything yet.
No,
But
of
yes,
course.
shouting out to my brother Ordnance J. Packard in the chat. Yes, sir, my brother, drown it in a bathtub. Just saying that's the government I want. I want a government small enough that should the need arise, we can drown it in a bathtub and start over. And if we get there, it's going to take a while. And I mean, there will be some missteps, and I do count that as today. But like I said, there was just such a much easier way to have made this not look as bad as it was, especially with as polished as they have seemed for the most part for the first month and a few days. They have not really missed very much. I mean, even Donald Trump, even today, he's being made fun of by the left because he basically openly trolled them in the press conference with the British because one of the members of the media was like, "Well, do you regret calling Volodymyr Zelensky a dictator?" And he's like, "Did I say that? I don't remember saying that." And just kind of smirked at him, and everybody in the room started laughing. He's like, "Okay, nice question."
Yeah. I mean, I really have loved the availability. I know I've had some pushback a little bit with people that have said, no, I would rather the president be so kind of insignificant that we don't have to see them every day. And I'm like, yes, but especially at the beginning of a term like this, when you're coming in, um, eh, retaking the Oval after the other party has been in power for 4 years, I mean, it's got to be this way. There's so many things to get done, overturn, set in motion. And this time he doesn't have a reelection on the horizon. It's only this. It's only this, and it's this and midterms, and those are the only things that he has to focus on, which I think is a little bit liberating. I think he's still going to run it. I know it's been It's been really energetic. There's been a lot of heavy hitting going on here early on. I still think at some point he runs into a little bit of the inability to get some stuff done legally, anyways, uh, because of the lame duck aspect of this presidency. I think you'll hit that wall, but I think it'll be a little further down the road. So if he can get as much done, while there's a lot of motivation, there's a lot of support, and there's also not a lot of I think before people start to get worn out, because that happens too. People get overstimulated. There's too much, so much is going on, and they get worn out on it all. And it's, oh, we're doing this and we're doing that, and we promise this and we promise that, and so then the eyes start to glaze, or they start to just not even want to hear the voice anymore. So that's another reason to consolidate it as much as you can into this first month or two before people are sick of seeing your face on TV. And then
Couldn't agree
after that,
more.
so I agree, like, you have to hit the ground running and hard punching, while people are still very much engaged and happy about the return on their investment via their vote.
All right. Well, believe it or not, we are pretty much out of time because we got to get ready for the folks coming on behind us, because I don't want to be late to that one because Jeff's actually on the show tonight.
Yay, I saw that.
Where can folks find you, ma'am?
Well, mostly here on Twitter, so come find me at J Homestead. I'm on several other platforms under that too, but this is where most of the action is for me, and then, of course, here at KLRN and over at Misfits Politics.
All right. Well, you can find me here in a minute doing the simulcast of SHR Media's BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon. One of these days I'll learn how to say that. Then I'll be back tomorrow afternoon doing the Rick Robinson Show from noon to 3, hanging out with Aggie Reekin tomorrow night at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. Back Saturday night, pushing buttons for first the Front Porch Forensics crew at 8 p.m. Eastern. Then Amish and I will be live with Juxtaposition at 10 p.m. Eastern. And then I am off on Sunday, and then back doing America Off the Rails on Monday, I think, because I think G's back. So I think I'm back to just doing a standard hour on Wednesday, because when I found out G was going to be off, I took Monday night off and 2 hours on Wednesday, which kind of sucked because I did 7 hours of live radio yesterday. I did not think that through.
Well, you are a radioholic.
Yeah, my name's Rick Robinson. I'm a workaholic, and my last meeting was forever ago. But on that note, folks, we are going to get out of here so I can change over and get things set up for BZ so we don't miss the intro. Again, want to thank everybody for hanging out with us tonight. This one should run for approximately 2 hours-ish. Sometimes they go a little bit over, so we'll see how late I'm running boards tonight. And I'll see you guys tomorrow.
Later.
Bye, everybody. Hello, friends. Do you have a moment so that we may discuss our Lord and Savior Minarchy? No, seriously, I'm just kidding. Hi, my name's Rick Robinson. I am the general manager of KLRNradio.com. We are probably the largest independent podcast network that you've never heard of. We have a little bit of everything, and by that, what I mean to tell you is we have news, pop culture, special events, conspiratainment, true crime, mental health shows, drama productions, and pretty much everything in between. So if you're looking for a new podcast home to grab a little bit of everything that you love all in one place, come check us out. You can find us on X under @KLRNradio. You can find us on our Rumble and our YouTube channels under the same names. You can also find us at KLRNradio.com and pretty much every podcast catcher known to man. So again, feel free to come check us out anytime you like at KLRNradio.
Are you ready to reach for the stars? Tune in to The Lost Wanderer, the #1 monthly podcast on good pods in astronomy. Join our host, Jeff, as he takes you on an interstellar adventure to explore the mysteries of space and the wonders of science. From rocket launches and distant galaxies to the latest discoveries in astronomy, each episode is a thrilling ride through the cosmos. Don't just gaze at the stars. Come explore the universe with us. Follow The Lost Wanderer wherever you get your podcasts, and let's discover the stars together.
listening to Late Night Radio on the SHR Media Network. Caution, there will be mature themes explored and potentially adult language used. If conservatarian words, phrases, certain concepts, or rhetoric offends you, tune out now.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show, where I am broadcasting from North Idaho in an actual free state. I happen to be your conservative Sherpa, who is guiding you through the maelstrom of Democrat, leftist, globalist lies, chaos, deceit, and betrayal. And I've actually changed my chat room again, more rustic. So please note, what you're about to hear for the next 2 hours consists of my opinion and the opinion of my guest, singular only. I am doing the job the American media maggots won't. I am fundamentally changing America one leftist diaper at a time. However, tonight is new, unique, and special because we're not going to be talking about politics tonight. This is one night where I'm going to eschew politics. Gesundheit. And it looks like we have some people in chat already. Oh, Unleash Jeremy Hansen. Welcome. Good to see you here. And Ricky Robinson. What? No Bigfoot? What? No gravy? And welcoming to each other, shake hands, 9mm at midnight, mission ready men. Great to see everyone in here. I have a great, oh my gosh, I have a new individual, Ordinist J. Hackard, Esquire. Obviously an attorney at law. And customarily we talk about politics, religion, crime, culture, economics, race, sex, science, law. But tonight we're mostly going to be talking about an individual whom I have determined is rather cool. And let's just put him in the up here for right now. And this happens to be, I find, as I've said so many times, I find a great deal of my guests on social media or the internet. And because the SHR Media Network is affiliated with KLRN on X, Twitter, I came across a very unique, let me make sure that I've got this right, because it's backwards. I have to remember it's backwards. I came across this very unique and interesting podcast there called The Lost Wanderer by this guy, JEFF, who is a cosmic bard. But of course, as most of you know already, not everyone who wanders is lost, as this gentleman is not lost tonight. His name, I discovered, is Jeff Stoner, aka the Lost Wanderer from Alpha Centauri. So tonight I'm assuming that we're mostly going to be talking about all things celestial, but honestly, this is the first time with Jeff Stoner tonight, so I don't really know where it's going to go. I mean, we sent some things back and forth, and I said, hey, what do you think about this? What about this? Because I just enjoy, and for those of you who think it's going to be a solely UFO or Bigfoot show, like I may customarily have with Alan Thomas, not really, because the Jeff Stoner's forte, and we'll be going into said forte and his CV, etc., is not necessarily, well, or you correct me if I'm wrong, your shindig is not necessarily UFO, Bigfoot, paranormal, any of that. It is, in fact, mostly all things cosmic and celestial.
For the most part, though I gladly dip my toe, especially when like KLRN radio juxtaposition with Rick and Orty. They'll let me come on, and we'll definitely deep dive. But yeah, it's mostly the science and space and things of that nature.
Which is really good because I dredged up a whole bunch of stuff about space. Oh, wait. Hello. And there's Jeremy Hansen. Oh, saying hello to you, mission ready men. Welcomes all around. And did you just say the alien is kind of cool? He can't be paid compliments. It's like feeding Gizmo. Oh, I guess, sadly. Jeff Stoner, you are on compliment probation.
Yes, I am.
Courtesy of Ricky.
Normally I get to bust on him when he does a whole bunch of shows. So this is kind of like his revenge tour that he will be busting on me.
This will be the first of tonight, perhaps many. So I get that. I grok that concept. You know, it's so sad. That was a great thing that I stole from Robert Heinlein. I grok this if you're a science fiction aficionado. And then X had to go steal grok, and there goes my cool line. And everybody thinks, oh, you stole it from X. No, X stole it from me, as a matter of fact. So instead of just wondering about the Wanderer, what we did now is we just pulled him out of the green room. I had to try to get him to drop all the brown M&Ms, and we added him to the stage. And so welcome, Jeff Stoner, the Lost Wanderer. And you do a podcast. I thought it was a podcast, but I determined that it's a bunch of podcasts.
Yes.
So for right now, let's kind of get started this way. Let's look at your social media on Twitter. By the way, you are a popular cat because there are already 60 people watching live. So thanks to everybody who happens to be watching live. And Ricky says, you're a panelist on Jux, Jux, comma, query. What is that, sir?
That is a show on KLRN radio called Juxtaposition, where they explore the unusual. They call it a conspiratainment show.
Okay.
So whenever there's alien stuff, I'm usually part of it, and universe stuff and things of that nature.
I know. Let's call Mikey. He hates everything.
Yes.
So dated, really dated. So anyway, this is your spot on X, the Lost Wanderer. However, it's at A Cosmic Bard. Oh, damn it. I don't have the overlay up right now. But since I saw the photograph, you sent me a photograph. I didn't know what you looked like. And then we automatically together became the part and parcel of the Cosmic Beard Club.
Yes.
So we're both institutional and originating members of the Cosmic Beard Club. So
I'm for that.
Very happy to see that. Anyway, there's his stuff right there. Oh, there it is. See, the Cosmic Beard Club, as he promoted tonight. Really happy to see that. And also, let's start here. This is your podcast, Lost Wanderer. Now, that's the one that I'm primarily aware of. And where is this?
That's
on
my main
KLRN.
Yes.
So, and then you've got this I noticed on Spreaker.
Yes.
Sad thing about Spreaker I discovered is they no longer do live.
And that has made it a nightmare for the backside of getting everything uploaded. It used to be so sweet, so nice, so simple. Now it's like, got to remember to upload.
And it's so weird. Oh, we're not going to go there. Oh, I just Bigfooted myself. Damn it, Jim. Stop that. So anyway, let's start at the start. Tell us about your podcast, if you would, because you have that one.
Yes.
Let me put this up again so folks can see. This is your primary podcast, but apparently you have some others. So if you would, tell us about Lost Wanderer, if you would.
Absolutely. Lost Wanderer, I started during the era, beginning days of COVID-19. It was done as actually a project when school shut down. the teachers here in Vermont had no plan, no clue of how to educate kids. So I saw my son just kind of doing stuff that just I didn't think advanced his learning. So him and I sat down and we thought, okay, what can we do to further your education during this time of everyone struggling to figure out how to educate? And he's always been a fan of space like I've been. So we decided, hey, I know all these guys over at KLRN. How about if I do a show about space? And it just kind of went from there. Him and I worked it up, decided to go, hey, here's the concept. Let's pick out some stories from space and science and rocketry that entices him. And we would dwindle a list of like 40 stories down to maybe 10 to 15 per show. And I would just relay that information in what I tried for was a unique educational way that was borderline adult. So there's some adult humor, there's some inappropriate humor and sayings and things of that nature, but make it educational as well. Just trying to get him engaged in it and anyone else who happened to come along for the ride.
So was that your first podcast, Lost Wanderer? In other words, had you done other podcasts, other shows like that before?
That was the first real one. I've done one of the other podcasts I have is called In the Crease. I put that one together real quick because I had a story I had to tell and get out to the public. But my first regular one was The Lost Wanderer.
And how long have you been doing that, sir?
May of 2020, and I think I'm at around episode 108.
Oh, nice. Okay, very nice. Did you just kind of like me? Well, actually, Sean Lewis from Edge of Liberty somehow came across Rick Robinson, but up until that point, I didn't know Rick at all. I didn't know about KLRN. So how did you become associated with, or how did you discover Rick Robinson and KLRN?
Mostly through the gentleman over on my X feed right now, Orty, and a few others. I came across some of their shows and was engaged. And actually on one of the shows that Orty was a co-host on, they were the main show that swore a lot on the network. So I took it upon myself one night. I might have had one too many Long Islands, and I started counting. Yeah. I started counting every swear word that was said by him and his co-host, and I would give him running tallies during the show of how much they've been swearing. And that was kind of my first unofficial job at KLRN.
So I noticed this. Rick says, Sean and I were on a terrestrial radio station together way back in the day. Okay, that must have been, where was Sean? Sean was in Boston somewhere, I think, if I'm not mistaken. And Sean says, yep. And welcome to everybody. In any event, where can people, if people want to see this show, Lost Wanderer, or there's your X site again, is Lost Wanderer on a regular schedule where people can go see it at, this certain day, this certain time, that kind of thing?
It is every other Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern for about an hour. Unless the show behind me, for some reason, is taking the week off, I will do an extended hour-and-a-half show. But it's every 2 weeks, and we distribute it everywhere. My favorite is actually Good Pods, because I happen to be beating someone I really despise over there in my category. So I try to promote Good Pods as much as I can.
Okay, that's number 2. Nicely done. So I don't know anything about you, and having done that, I listened to one of your podcasts. I think it was the one on the 23rd, if I'm not mistaken. Was that your last one?
That is my last one, yes.
Okay. So I listened to that one and I enjoyed it. And I thought, like I said, hey, this would be a really cool cat to have on the air. And the other thing that I thought is, because I don't know, we're gonna. I'd like to what I do to people that are on the show for the first time is I like to find a little bit about them, their background, that kind of thing. So, can you give us some background? Because I will get to radio, etc., and podcasting. So, where were you born? You're in Vermont, right now.
I'm currently living in Vermont. I was born and raised in Western Maryland.
Okay.
On a farm, and that led to some. Actually, that actually leads to a lot to the Lost Wanderer podcast, because when I was growing up, working on the farm, some nights when, as a kid, I would be able to sit in the farm and just look at the night sky. And one of the most popular things at that time that would play on Maryland public television was Stargazer. And he would do his little 5 to 10 minute report, that hey, what's up in the sky that night? So that was always the beginning of my fascination with the stars, was just being lucky enough to be born in an area where I could see the night sky on my grandparents' farm.
How cool is that? So you were raised on a farm.
Yes.
If there's, oh my God, I'll tell you what, I lived in California, always spelled it with a K, for a really long time. And then the skies in Sacramento, which is where I was from, where I was born, they're terrible. Occasionally I would go on a vacation up to Oregon. I went to Bandon, and the first time I went to Bandon, I looked up and I thought, I have never, ever, ever seen clear skies like this before. So I really didn't have any concept of what light pollution does. And that there's so much stuff up there to be seen that I had never seen before. Then, long story short, I left California, always spelled it with a K, came up to Nofe, N-O-F-E, Idaho. And likewise, if you want to look at stars, probably like where you are, when it's crisp and clear and it's cold as hell out there right now, and I'm sure it probably is in Vermont, but it's clear right now. You could step outside and see things like the Outer Limits in crystal clarity.
Yes.
I've never seen stars this clear, this sharp, that you can see with the naked eye. And it's a feast. It's an absolute feast. I just love it.
I call it the drug that you can enjoy without messing up your body, because you can just get your brain can just absorb so much from the lights. And one of the things I love doing now with my son is I'll wake him up at 2:00 in the morning. Like if there's a meteor shower going on, that the peak is 2 to 3 a.m. We'll go to bed a little bit early, but then like 2:00, I'll be like, hey bud, let's wake up. The show's on, and we'll get dressed. And especially during the winter, we'll get our warmer clothes on, and we'll just go out for a half an hour to see who can count the most meteors, because you can just see so many. It's ridiculous.
Well, I understand that. So you were born in Maryland.
Yes.
Where were you educated? Where did you end up going to various schools?
What had happened when I graduated high school, I had a handful of options. Originally, I was going to go to the University of Maryland on a music scholarship. I had 4 scholarships open for music. Like, okay, do I do that? I was being recruited by the Air Force to join their Air Force band.
Okay.
Because I was a jazz musician. I was a saxophonist.
Okay.
And they had a saxophone 1 position open in 2 different locations, one in Germany and one in Kansas. And at the time, I spoke near fluent German. So I looked at the recruiter and went, okay, I speak German. You're going to send me to Germany, right? And he goes, oh, it's not up to us. We can't decide that. And I'm like, wait, what? I can speak German and you're not possibly going to send me? I'm done. So I was looking through the papers to sign. I finally ended up not doing it. Went back to the University of Maryland, was looking at them, and then I got a really, really interesting offer to go play hockey.
Hockey, very nice.
Yes. So
I didn't stop, and I didn't open your mouth, and I didn't count your teeth. Do you still have teeth?
I do not.
Oh, damn it, Jim. Let me guess. Hockey?
No, I made it through my entire hockey career without losing my front teeth. Now, granted, most of the 20 years, 15 of them were in net, so I always had a face mask on. It wasn't until I became a dad and got in an accident that I lost my front teeth. But now, hey, I can say I played 20 years of hockey and I look the part, and no one says a second thing.
Well, A, I'm sad to hear about the accident, but B, that's a good positive thing that you didn't lose it to hockey. So, when you were in school, were you kind of a geek kind of guy? I mean, were you always interested in the heavens, the cosmos, things like that?
I call myself a Renaissance man because in school I was always really good at languages and science and math, but I was also on a various number of sports teams and I was in the band. So my goal was always to do whatever you threw at me, I was going to achieve. It was really those quiet nights on my grandfather's farm where I could just contemplate the meaning of life and everything, looking up at the stars. Where that's where I fell in love with all of that.
Well, that's cool. That's very cool. So you went to a college, university,
I did not.
because you decided the Air Force was not for you.
No, which really bummed me out because everyone else in my family, my uncles all went. I was one of the few who unfortunately didn't. Um, I actually did not go to college until after my hockey career was over.
And then what were some of the specialties? Or what did you grab? Did you take what was your major, I should say? Jeez, BC, wake up. Major starts with an M.
I
And
graduated with a bachelor's of science in all thing IT and on servers and security.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, that would be impressive because being the techno Luddite that I am and speaking to you at length about all the stupid shit that happened before the show,
Yes.
which happens every time before my show, damn it.
Yes.
So, hey, let me go back here because here's some other things that I did not notice until just before I went on. Because I went to BZ, if you're talking, go ahead and put your thing over there. There you go. Good man. Wow. Where's my damn producer? I looked over here and it said 54. Now, this is right here for you on X. 54, single father of 3. And then it says 2 in heaven.
Yes.
Dare I ask?
Yeah. I because actually it's an important date's coming up. The reason I started my first podcast was to do an hour and a half on the life and story of my twins.
Okay.
They died 8 and 43 hours after they were born due to complications of twin-to-twin transfusion syndrome. So I had to get my story out there. And through odd circumstances and whatnot, I said, you know what, screw it. I'm going to put out this podcast. I'm going to explain everything that happened in the 25 weeks that they were inside their mother and the 8 and 43 hours that they got to experience after they were born and everything we did along that process. And the you hear a lot of stories about women and their losses. You don't hear a lot of men open up about it. So my goal was to tell the story from the dad perspective, especially being the first time dad with them. And 1 month from today, 1 month and 4 days on March 31st would have been and will be their 18th birthday. So It's been 18 years since. But it was what actually got me into podcasting I was like, you know what? Even though that is a very hard listen because of how emotional and tearful and everything it is, I was like, this is kind of fun. I can tell stories that interest me. And that was kind of the gateway for me even getting into podcasting at all.
I didn't say this before the show, but I will say it now. I was going to go and say, "Hey, when were you in radio?" Because you have a good voice for that. And I thought, okay, well, what's going to happen? By the way, folks, this is Jeff Stoner. He is the Lost Wanderer. This is his site right here, at a Cosmic Bard, at a Cosmic Bard. So, by the way, let me stop here just for a second. How did you get a Cosmic Bard?
Because I got pissed off at my old username.
Okay.
I used to be known as Stoner Brewing Co. Because I've also been an award-winning home brewer.
Oh, shoot. Okay, here comes another. Nice.
So I'm like, look, my last name is amazing, especially living in the state of Vermont.
Hell yeah. I told you that before the show.
Right?
Jeff Stoner. Jeez.
So I'm sitting here going, Stoner Brewing Co. At one point I was in the works of getting my own brewery open. And then I realized, I think I'm being blacklisted on Twitter, that my interactions are limited because of my name, that so many people block the term stoner because of the drug association.
Jesus.
That I was like, I got to change it. I got to change it. I got to change it. And I've had that name. I had that name on Twitter for 14 years. And then one day I said, screw it. I actually asked Grok to come up with some based on my postings of the last 3 years. What would be a good name? Give me 20. I found 3 that I liked, walked over to my son, who also happens to be the executive producer of my podcast, and say, hey, which of these names do you like? And he said, oh, Dad, you got to do a Cosmic Bard. Done. And I kid you not, the month after I changed my name, and this was, Orty might be able to correct me in chat, but I think it's been 3, maybe 4 months since I've changed it. And my engagement went up 55%. 55% since I changed my name.
Wow. Okay. That's pretty cool. Let me go back to this just for a second. 54, single father of 2 in heaven, Alpha Centaurian. How does that fit in, or what are you meaning by that? What's the meaning of this?
I joke because I've done everything, like sports. I write, I do art, I made beer. I'm like the country Finland. It shouldn't exist because there's so many good people there. So I've joked, I'm like the non-powered Superman. So I had to pick a planet that, okay, if I'm going to be someone not from this earth, what planet? So I decided Alpha Centauri because I just like the name.
Okay, that's cool. I'll go along with that. I know a lot of people in Zephron. Zephron is I think a little bit further away from Alpha Centauri. So if you guys hear me refer to Zephron, I used to do that when I started the podcast in 2017. So I still have friends on Zephron. They occasionally come and visit. Hey, by the way, I've got this shirt for everyone tonight, which I thought was thematically. There we go. Now I got to pull it up so you can see the UFO, and I cover my mouth. There are the UFOs. There's the amazed Sasquatch. I like this shirt. Anyway, going back to this, it also says gamer and artist. Gamer in terms of that's what you're doing currently, and artist in terms of what kind of art do you do?
3D medieval art, digital artwork. One of my podcasts that I do once a month usually is about D&D, Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Except for when Amazon decides to air Rings of Power, then I spend 8 episodes dragging that show because it's hilarious when I do it. So yeah, I love role-playing games. I've always have. I've been playing them probably since I was 9 or 10.
And then it also says, if I'm not mistaken, what do I got? I got about 1 more minute before the bottom of the hour break. Even the bottom of the hour break. The intro music is different. The bottom of the hour break and the top of the hour, bottom of the hour breaks are all going to be a little bit different than they have been in the past. But it also says IT podcast host and producer. You mentioned producer. So how is it that you are a producer, sir?
I think Rick got tired of producing every show on KLRN radio. So I ended up stepping in and helping produce some of the show. Just a handful right now to take some of the load off of him, so he can actually get some rest and relaxation and get his mind back on a good flow, so he doesn't feel overwhelmed with some of the producing duties. Plus, I love it.
Well, that's excellent. For a time, we had a guy named Dan Butcher, and Sean could regale you with many tales about that. But the concept of producing from afar was completely foreign and alien. Get the link there to me. And there were tons of stories about that. So being a producer, I think that's a really cool thing. So folks, I am BZ. We're going to take a break. And when we come back, we are going to continue talking to Jeff Stoner. Get to know him a little bit more. I got a few more questions. And then we're going to get into some science stuff and some space stuff and some universe stuff and some really crazy questions and asteroids. And do you really believe in UFOs? And what's the Drake equation? Ever hear of the Fermi paradox? That's some weird stuff. So if you would, come right back. And we're back. I am BZ. Now, maybe that wasn't enough time to go to the electric winkle chamber, but it certainly was for me. So if it was for me, then it should be for you. Now, I'm not running on heavy fuel tonight. And by the way, I'm speaking to Jeff Stoner, who has probably one of the coolest damn names in history, who has a great podcast. And let me see if I can go back and pull this up. The Lost Wanderer podcast. You can find him on X at A Cosmic Bard. Not two Cosmic Bard, A Cosmic Bard right there. So from here on in, Jeff, I can't tell you how difficult it is for me not to do politics right now, because that is kind of my thing. And I told myself, don't do politics tonight. And it's really difficult for me. So I'm going to start here. And have you yet addressed this or talked about this on your show?
Yes.
Big old asteroid that some say has a 1 in 48 chance of smacking Earth right in the Gesicht in 2032. Yes. Oh, yes. And I took German also. I took German in junior high school from Fraulein Akamura. So
yeah, Wohlmann Herr.
UNIQ. Yeah. So this, let's see, what is this? Asteroid 2024 YR4 has a 1 in 48 chance of impacting Earth in 2032. Have you discussed this before? Do you know anything about this?
Yes, actually,
And go.
it's been mentioned on my last 2 episodes. The numbers have been varying greatly. Now, as of this morning, they're saying, "Oh, great, it's not going to hit. It's 0.0003% chance based on the latest trajectory." But Sunday night, I found an interesting article that was hidden very, very hard to find, and it talked about while there's a 1 in 48 chance of it hitting Earth at that time,
Okay.
there was a 1 in 86% chance that would hit the moon.
So the moon might be a bit of a shield for us.
Yes, and it's interesting because you don't hear everyone talks, "Oh my God, the asteroid, sweet meteor death may finally get us." But you never hear anyone talk about the asteroid impact that if a big enough one hit the moon. So I spent probably 4 or 5 minutes Sunday talking about the impact of what would happen on the moon, how we would see this. It'd probably be one heck of a show where we would see this giant explosion on the moon.
Yeah.
It wouldn't impact anything the moon does. We would probably see a cloud around the moon for a little bit and a bit of a light show, and then everything would go back to normal. So I'm like, huh. I kinda want to see that happen in my lifetime now.
How cool would that be? So I'm looking at this thing. It says, for obvious reasons, astronomers are desperate to learn as much as they can about it. It's estimated to be 177 feet wide.
Yeah.
That's about as wide as Cinderella's castle in Walt Disney World, Florida, as it is tall. So I'm thinking, well, you can perhaps tell me this better. Apparently, the asteroid or comet, whichever, I am not knowing about this, that struck like around the Gulf of Mexico / America. Apparently, that was the extinction event. That one that hit that area? Question mark. I'm not sure. Is that? Am I in the ballpark of that?
You're in the ballpark. Now, depending on the trajectory of the entry of this asteroid, if it were to hit, you're probably only looking at a city destroyer. And right now, they project that it's going to be mostly in Africa and in the southern hemisphere where it would most likely impact.
Okay.
So it would be a city destroyer, might mess up the environment for a month or two, depending on how the winds are blowing. But yeah, since even 3 weeks ago when it was first talked about, the odds have been changing because what they've been able to do, which is absolutely amazing when you think about it. They went back and looked at all of the recorded data from like the Hubble and everything else and the Earthbound satellites going, have we seen this thing before? Like we only really identified it Christmas Day of 2024, which is
Okay.
why it has its 2024 designation at the front.
Right.
But they were able to go back and see the last time it was around based on the trajectory it's been taking since December. So they've been modifying the percentage chance that it was going to hit us based on past discoveries that they didn't know was even there.
Okay, so I have to say this right now. Sean Lewis, get the fuck out of my head right now, okay? I said I wasn't going to do politics, and there you go. Like you said, I'm not opposed to the asteroid some days. And when I saw this originally, the first thing I put up on X or Twitter is I said, well, at this point in time, ... So, hey, stay out of my head. There's only room enough in here for one person. Okay.
Hey, I won't lie. My first thought when I saw it is like, hey man, can we pick a city? Because I'm really imagining what the reaction would be if, I don't know, an asteroid 177 meters wide happened to hit DC and we got to see it televised that Congress got hit. It'd be like watching Mars Attack 2.0.
Oh, Mac. Jeremy Hansen says, I would love to see a moon show, but there's some of this. There is so much of this detritus floating around that comes around again. And like you indicated, well, would it be accurate to say maybe this thing has been around here before? Maybe it's flown by before, and we just either didn't know it or we hadn't named it or something like that.
Yeah, one especially with the use of AI, once you can track it for 30 to 60 days, you can pick up enough of a trajectory, especially I think if I remember the report right from Sunday, it's doing 33,000 meters per second or something. It's ridiculous speed. It's so once you're able to see that trajectory and knowing how the cosmos typically works, you can go back in time and start looking for anything else that might have been smaller because it was further out and start going, okay, where would it most likely appear and on which telescope, which satellite, and then you can start looking and fine tuning it even more. It's kind of a reverse engineering of it, and it's kind of fascinating when they do it because then they can get really detailed accuracy of what was the most likely projection.
And I'm not trying to pin you down on this, but if that comet, asteroid, meteor, I'm unsure of my verbiage, was the event that wiped out the dinosaurs, because I don't know, what kind of size were we talking about that was essentially at that time a planet killer? I mean, this thing is, 177 feet. So what's a planet killer like?
Typically 10
mile?
to 20, 10 to 20 times that size is where you run the risk of a planet killer. The biggest issue is where it lands, because if it hits near, say the east coast of America in the water, it's not going to destroy the city, but the impacts of the tidal waves is going to take out a lot of people, land, and things of that nature. So it really is about not just size, but where it hits, where it lands, and it's they like to hypothesize a lot, but really until it happens again and we record it, we'll never really know.
Okay, so see, when you're talking about this kind of stuff, my little fuzzy brainulus is going back and saying, okay, well, how, like Sean said in chat, like, how cool would it be if you were standing or looking in the night sky and you watched that thing thump the shit out of the moon on the dark side? And then you're standing right here looking up into the heavens, and it's like, oh my God, what would that be like? And then you talk about something that I can't remember the movie. There was a movie that came out probably 2 or 3 years ago where something happened and an asteroid cracked the moon. And it was kind of a cheesy science fiction movie, and I can't remember the title, but I do remember the CGI on that was pretty cool. So if something was big enough to strike the moon, say on the dark side, is there something out there in the cosmos big enough to crack the moon? And in the meantime, down here on the ground, we're going, oh, shit, look.
I look at the one, the first interstellar comet that we recorded. I always say it wrong. It's like Oumuamua or something like that. It was, there were even some in the astrophysics world that thought maybe it was a spacecraft because of the shape of it. Because
Uma, yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Like it was, I think some people referred to it as like the phantom planet.
Yes. And based on its size and its shape, there were a lot of question marks, and the shape definitely is unusual from what we've seen. But we've only really seen stuff that's been in our solar system, not from something somewhere else. So you take something like Oumuamua with its shape and the speed that it's traveling at. If it hit the moon directly, you're looking at a catastrophic event possibly on the Earth based on the impact on the moon, and the moon possibly either shifting orbit or being split in half. All of a sudden, the tidal waves change, the Earth pattern, weather patterns change on Earth. You can really get some interesting scenarios.
So you were talking about that, and naturally my mind went, because it does. It went absolutely everywhere. So now you said at this point, this article said there was a 1 in 48 chance of this happening by 2030. So the likelihood, will it go up or will it diminish?
So far, we've had a 1.3% chance, a 2.6% chance, a 4.1% chance, and as of this morning, a 0.0003% chance. So in a span of 3 weeks, it's changed 4 times already. They're still, I don't want to say they're guessing, because they're educated. They know the pattern. They know history. They know enough to deduce what the most likely outcome is. But it's probably something, if I had to venture a guess, unless they have already discovered the concrete historical evidence on this, it's probably something we're going to see change over the next year or two. The percentages. And I know we're not getting political too much, but as
if you want to go there, it's our show, damn it, do it.
I did mention on the show, one of the things that scares me with every time there is a doomsday possible meteor, satellite, whatever, the percentages always seem to fluctuate based on who the current government leader is.
Okay.
If
wait a minute,
if they can,
that deserves one of those.
If they can push doom, they will, depending on who the president is. If they want to hide it, they will. So sometimes you will see percentages higher than normal, or the language used, potential Earth doomsday comet coming 2032. And then you read the story and it's like, oh, it's not even going to get it closer to us than the moon is. Why are we saying we're doomed? If it's, there have been a lot more stories over the last year of comets coming from the side of the sun that we haven't seen, that passed through the distance between the Earth and the moon. So that you have the Earth here, you have the moon here, and the comet has cut between the two. But we didn't see it because it came from the other side of the sun, where we were at the time.
Would I be correct in saying sooner rather than later, we're going to have a wipeout event here? And the moon will not be protecting us.
The odds are still very, very slim, but let's face it, we're still basic galactic idiots. We like to think we know what we're doing. We like to know that we have an idea, and our knowledge is growing every day. But all it would take would be one gigantic, asteroid from behind the sun during the winter here, wherever we're at on our rotation of Earth. We may not detect it. I mean, there's been stories where I've talked about where a small VW bus size asteroid passed, within the same distance of the ISS, and it was detected after the fact.
Oops.
Yeah. It's.
Excuse me while I laugh at your demise.
Yeah. The likelihood, though, of a catastrophic asteroid from the backside of the sun not being seen is slim to none. But it's there. It's greater than 0%.
I think in chat at this point, Sean gets the comment of the show, but it's early. Okay. More things could transpire. When he says, more importantly, in terms of the comet striking the Earth, would I get a day off from work, and would it be paid time off? Now, at this point, it's looking pretty good that if you were working overtime, you wouldn't get taxed for it. So that appears to be working for you right now. Second, Sean, just thought I would say that. And Rick says, oh, somebody's got to throw some politics in there somewhere. What do I got? About 12 more minutes. So we can go to So it's out there. What you're saying is the big one is out there. But I think you have to look at history, don't you? You have to look at the moon. And then if you remove water, well, let me just ask the expert, because it's certainly not me, not here, not tonight. The moon is rife with craters of all sizes and things like that, that smack the crap out of the moon and leave a huge damn crater. Always makes me wonder, like I said before, how did that thing not crack that planet? But you can see the moon. It's really easy. It's up in the night sky when it's full, etc. Even with cameras, with phone cameras right now, I can take a nice photograph of the moon and see a ton of craters. How many times roughly do we have any equivalent like that other than the one that was in the Gulf of America? Do we have any big ass craters on the Earth where we've been smacked pretty seriously?
There are several. Most of the time, though, it's most of the stuff that hits because we're protected so well with our atmosphere that even gigantic asteroids, comets, or whatever will burn up to a point where we're not going to see it even happen, which is one of the fascinating things with the moon. Is because of the lack of general atmosphere, we can see all the little small, every little indent from the sheer volume of asteroids that hit the moon. And when we think about, all these, oh, hey, the Iridinet shower is coming here soon. Let's go out at night and we can see 20 an hour. We kind of sometimes overlook the beauty of that because, oh, look, shooting star, let's wish upon it. But if we didn't have an atmosphere, every single one of those would be impacting us.
Oh, yes, right. Because, damn it, Jim. That makes me think about the video that I think came from Russia, where there is
yes,
and it you could see it. I mean, everybody. This should not come as a surprise, but everybody in Moscow and Russia has dash cams because there's so many scams pulled on Russians by fake accidents, etc. So anything and everybody has a dash cam to capture all this stuff. And it was cool because it came in from BZ, try the other way. There you go. This way and went down. And then apparently this thing shattered windows for miles. So, and my understanding was that thing really wasn't all that big. It wasn't the size of a VW or anything. So that's it. It's still happening and still can happen.
Absolutely. And like I said, there are so many variables that between the size and and perhaps the most often overlooked is what is that actually made out of?
Yes.
How much of it is metal? Or, radiation, radioactive materials in it. Or is it like lobbing bombs that once it hits and explodes, are we getting radioactive capabilities from it as well? There's just so many variables. It's hard to pinpoint which one will be the one that will take care of us.
And now it's time for the scientific question of the show. This is from Sackhead Sean. Does the moon's gravitational pull change the course of them away from us? Does that have any influence?
I don't want to say no, but you will probably win the lottery 1,000 times if before the moon ever changed the course.
Okay. Alrighty, which is really interesting because I'm going to see if here maybe I'll make myself a little bigger. I will embiggen myself. This ring, which you may or may not be able to see if I pull it back. This is my wedding ring, and it is made of meteorite. I do not know where. God dang it! Would you focus, please? Because normally it'll focus like crazy. Anyway, it's a beautiful ring. I had it made in Capitola.
Nice.
And it is made of meteorite, but meteorites, would it be fair to say that all the metals that we have on Earth are pretty much the same ones that comprise meteors, things like that strike? Or what are you saying, BZ? Come on, out with it. Blah. Have we seen any metals or discovered any metals from falling objects, not buses, where we've discovered, hey, look, there are metals in this that we don't have here on Earth?
I'm trying to remember which one it is.
Is that a weird question?
No, there was one that they found first on a meteor, and then they were able to find it on Earth itself. Now the question is, was that already on Earth, or was it from another meteor? But nothing on the crazy scale. And I want to go back to a little bit to the last one about the question with the gravity of the moon.
Sure.
If it wasn't for Jupiter, we'd all be gone.
Okay, how so?
Jupiter's gravity is what really does end up saving Earth a lot from asteroids hitting us on a regular basis. The gravity of Jupiter affects everything so much, it's insane that we could be absolutely bombarded without it. It's like a cosmic shield for the planet.
Well, one thing that I know about Jupiter is that Jupiter is multiplis bigibus. That's Latin for really, really big, but it makes a really nice cosmic shield for everything. And of course, that's stuff like that I don't think about because I don't know the right questions to ask, which is really cool. Again, folks, we're listening to Jeff Stoner, one of the most classic names to have at any time, at any point in time. And then there's a comment in from MD Campbell who says, there's a thing in my state called the Kentland Structural Anomaly. Well, my first thought was, okay, is this Ohio? What state is this? Maybe you could let us know. And have you heard of the Kentland Structural Anomaly that is believed to be an impact crater 40 million years old? Does that resonate in any way?
The name sounds familiar, and if I'm not
Asking
mistaken,
for a
MD, I believe that's Iowa,
Okay.
but I don't know enough about it to really comment much on it.
Okay.
And I do want to thank Orty. Iridium was the one metal I was looking for.
Okay. And there's my answer right there. Isn't it amazing? Just
Or Indiana. There we go.
Yep. And then, like you say, iridium. And right back at you, it's essentially invisible on the surface due to the area being bulldozed flat by multiple glaciations. Okay, wait a minute. Award winner in chat for multisyllabic word for tonight. I like that. Glaciations. Sean says, hey, this is crazy cool. And damn it, would you stop having good comments, Sean? Damn it, mad props to Jupiter for being a stud. Boy, I oughta. To the moon, Alice. When we come back, because it's almost time for pee-pee caca, and when we come back, I'd like to go here and talk about the Drake equation and why is it his? Why isn't it anybody else's? And what does the Drake equation have to do with much of anything? And then we might be getting into some kind of weird, like UFO or extraterrestrial stuff, or the Fermi paradox, that kind of stuff, which I know you know that I know that you know all about. What do I got? I got another minute. So anyway, I am BZ. That is Jeff Stoner at, here, let me go back here and show you his Twitter site. That's Twitter in French. Lost Wanderer at A Cosmic Bard at A Cosmic Bard. This is his show, The Lost Wanderer, and you can hear it on KLRN radio. And thanks to everybody for being here tonight. 131 people listening live or watching live that I can see, at least. Let me get my finger pointed in the right direction, right up there. And so thanks to everybody for being here. I greatly appreciate it. It's about time to take another break if you want. And I'm BZ, folks. And this is Jeff Stoner. And thanks to him for being here tonight. 132 people watching live right now, according to my precise calculations, which are not so precise, but it indicates so right over there. And more comments. This is very interesting. This might be a little bit salacious, but I'm going to put it up here anyway. Mission Ready Man says, hey, Sean, used up all his good comments for March anyway. And Ricky responds, he'll be in the Corber corner, eating paint chips soon enough. No one can consume paint chips like anybody else. Can't send me to the moon. I hear the gravitational pull would pull me there without propulsion. Aim for Jupiter. The gravitational. I have to point out that I have been accused by Sean Lewis himself of having my own gravitational pull. Bastardo. Anyway, we are talking tonight to Jeff Stoner, A Cosmic Bard. As you can see right there, look up, it says JEFF, A Cosmic Bard, and has a great show, The Lost Wanderer. And as I pointed out from the very beginning, not all who wander are lost. Well, let's talk about this. I went here on another show that Rick had, and I wanted to make some of these things known, and it didn't really go there. So I thought, okay, this is a perfect time to talk about aliens, UFOs, that kind of thing. We're not going to get deep into the weeds on this. I'm going to concentrate it primarily on the scientific. But we're talking about the Drake equation. I'm guessing that that's something that you know about. And the Drake equation is essentially, there's a guy named Frank Drake, hence, basically said, in the search for extraterrestrial intelligence, let's see, you probably can't see it, it's really small, but there is an actual equation for that. And the equation says, okay, from this, can we accurately calculate the likelihood of extraterrestrial intelligence in the universe? And let me, before we go to the Drake equation, I don't know, I may or may not blow your mind with this, but As a child, folks, did you ever do the pondering of infinity thing like I did?
Mhm.
Because as a kid, I was told by one of my teachers, I don't recall who said, the universe is infinite and it never ends. It never stops. And first I thought, what a load of poop that is. And then if you actually take the time to sit down, perhaps even with a nice bottle of vodka, and as Jeff Stoner says, under a beautiful sky, a clear, sharp sky, and you look up and you think to yourself, what is way the hell out there? Now, as a child, I said, well, what if there's a brick wall? And then it stops at the brick wall. But my little childlike moron said, dummy, what's on the other side of the wall? So just to attempt to grok the concept of infinity is in itself, to me, brain blowing. And I've got a video that I might be able to get to in terms of the universe. But Jeff Stoner, can you talk, before we go into the Drake equation thing, can you talk a little bit about infinity? How it is literally a brain-blowing concept to think that there is something here that simply that doesn't stop. How do we feature that? I mean, this is all the leftists, but it's also trying to think of, okay, what's beyond that wall? Infinity is it's a concept that human beings, I think, have a really tough time grappling with.
I actually hate infinity.
Okay.
Especially in terms of the universe.
Okay.
Because on one hand, we're told the universe is infinite, yet we're also told it's expanding.
Right. I had another video with that. So, it's coming up here. Maybe we get to it. How do you reconcile that? How can that possibly be reconciled?
I hate saying it. The only way it's reconciled is the multiverse, multiple universes.
Okay.
There is something greater than a universe. Universe is a middle school, high school term that I joke, our understanding of physics and astrophysics is at a middle school level, maybe 6th, maybe 7th grade at best. We have yet to get into high school level physics, and let alone college and doctoral understanding of physics. So if you look at a universe as being able to expand, but yet it's infinite, the logic fails. But the way the logic can work is if you all of a sudden have, trillions upon times trillions upon times trillions of universes that are expanding at the same time in this unknown entity, then it starts to make sense. So there's this big infinity void, aka maybe dark energy, dark matter, and there's just so many multiple universes that expand. And it's actually one of the theories behind the Big Bang is when two universes collide.
Because I'm oriented this way, I thought, okay, as soon as you started talking like that, the first thing that popped into my Mark 1 Model 1 brain housing group was Interstellar. Did you ever see the movie Interstellar?
Believe it or not, I have not watched that.
Oh, Mansoor, you must rush out quick like a bunny and see Interstellar. Great recommendazione. That's Italian for recommendation. Highly recommend it to anybody that has not already done so. Sean Lewis is making some of the strangest comments tonight. I'm wondering if perhaps there may be bourbon may have been involved. Anyway, so people have said multiple universes, infinite universe, all conflicting at once. Will we, maybe this is really too stupid to mention, is there a way that we will ever begin to know? We know you know nothing, Jon Snow.
Yeah.
Will we ever know anything truly about the universe except, I don't know, when the funny little rocks strike our planet, we go, look, funny little rocks striking our planet. Other than that, we don't know shit.
That is a very great question.
Fat guy puzzled you.
Well, it really, what is interesting is there is stuff out there we don't understand. In particular, negative matter, negative energy, dark matter, dark energy, and the impacts it have on the universe in general. So we are still looking at everything at a childlike level. And so we tend to think of things as simplistic, and yeah, I don't know if we ever will, and that's the scary concept.
But I go back to infinity. If we cannot, if our meager, knurled little knotted brains cannot understand the concept of I almost said humidity. I understand humidity of infinity. How can we expect to understand most anything else? Because so much is theoretical. Oh, stop. I just had another question. Zot in and zot out. And it almost broke my computer over here. It was so fast. Jeff Stoner, because of all the stuff that you are interested in these days, have you ever conjured going back to, say, a university or something like that and getting a like a BS in just in the universe, life, and everything?
Yes.
Has that ever, flipped
absolutely.
around a bit?
Absolutely.
Because you have a curious mind, and that's why I thought you would be a cool cat to have here tonight.
It's funny because in high school I failed physics. Now, admittedly, it was because it was first period every day, and I am not at all a morning person. But it was probably when I was about 30 where all of a sudden math just clicked.
And it's like, God bless you for that.
And it's just like, okay, this is awesome. I would 100%, if the opportunity presented itself, I would love to get a bachelor's or a master's, because I really, especially in that field, because I really want to know, especially with pursuing a master's of IT and the quantum computing and tying in quantum computing with quantum field theory, quantum everything theory, because there is a lot of hidden information that when we find out in the next 3 to 5 years what actually is there is going to be absolutely mind-blowing.
Strange story. I said to myself, I'm never going back to California, always spelled it with a K. Once I leave, that's it. I'm done. I'm here in North Idaho, except that we had a dog pass away last year in June. And we had 3 pass away in the span of about 3 months in 2019, 2020, like boom, boom, boom. So we decided, okay, we're going to go get another dog. There aren't any dogs around here. The dogs that are around in North Idaho were, as you would think, huge. They're all hunting dogs. I can't imagine why that would be. So we decided, okay, let's go back to California, always spell it with a K, and see if we can find a dog. Well, we ended up getting a really great, cool dog in Berkeley. And so I used to live in San Francisco, but not in Berkeley. I used to go to Berkeley. There were a couple of cool, crazy chicks that were at Berkeley, but that's a story for another time. So we wind up to the Berkeley Hills. And now this is not far from Berkeley Livermore Labs. And so this house, God, I wish I'd been thinking about it. I would have put it up here. This house has it's 3 stories on a hill, and it has a direct view out to the Bay Bridge and the Golden Gate Bridge. This thing is worth millions of dollars. And the lady that's there, she fosters rescues. Well, the guy that's there, God, get to the story, BZ. The guy that's there, I discover, and I cannot think of his name now for the life of me. He was an extremely well-known particle physicist for the Berkeley Livermore Labs that was feted with all sorts of honors, won, I think, a Nobel Prize for some of his equations, and this guy loves dogs. Okay, I've said my piece. Now we're going to move on. Let's talk about the Drake's equation, though. And as it says, are humans alone in the universe? And Rick Robinson made this point, which I think is very interesting. One of the aspects of the Drake equation is it isn't about proving a certainty, but just a possibility that life exists in the universe. And again, let's see. Here's the Drake equation, why it was there, how it was launched. But let me ask you this. Jeff Stoner, do you read a lot of books? My guess is you consume about one book every day and a half. Every
Not
2
that
hours.
anymore. I can read a book in 3 hours, but I usually only read 2 or 3 a month now at this point.
See, I knew it. Anyway, I have read science fiction for a really long time. And a lot of things that science fiction authors that I can remember starting with Asimov say something similar to, you have to be able to survive 2 things to become a spacefaring civilization. The first is, how does that thumb get like that? God, nobody wants to see a demented genetic mutant thumb. So I'll use my finger. First thing is you have to be able to survive your atomics.
Yes.
And can you survive your atomics? And that generally is a civilization ender right there. And on any number of occasions, we've been this close. I can remember my dad telling me about 1962 and the Cuban Missile Crisis.
Oh, I have a fun little tangent on this.
And only probably 20 years later, when I was speaking to my dad, did he tell me, I can't tell you, and this is when he didn't mind cursing in front of me. I can distinctly remember him saying, I thought we were fucked. I thought it was going to rain ballistic missiles all over the U.S.
I'm going to deviate just for a moment.
Tell me the story. I love stories. Tell me a story.
The Cuban Missile Crisis. My son's grandfather was on the plane that was carrying one of the nuclear missiles.
Whoa.
Yes. And he never knew.
Oh, isn't that interesting?
He was watching now, unfortunately, he passed, this amazing gentleman passed before I got to meet him, which God, that is one thing I would have loved to have met that man.
Oh, yeah.
But I was really got along great with my mother-in-law. And she would tell me stories, and she told me the story that he was watching the History Channel about the Cuban Missile Crisis. And she said he turned as white as a ghost when he realized that was his mission, because he never knew.
Whoa. Now, just out of curiosity, was he in SAC? Was he in a B-52?
Yes.
Okay. Then he was under LeMay at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And LeMay, I have all sorts of stories about LeMay, but that's a time for, that's another day and time. But I find stuff like that just super, super intriguing. But the Drake equation, since we've dredged that out, and I've slogged it through the mud and all that, and the NASA story about the Drake equation, any thoughts, Jeff Stoner, whom I am speaking to tonight, who has this for an ex-Twitter spot? Hey, look, It's us talking right there. Not really talking. I'd have to hit the button. And look, it's the Cosmic Beard Club right there. Only very specific and limited members may join. Anyway, if you want to find out what's going on with the Lost Wanderer, JEFF Lost Wanderer from Alpha Centauri, at a Cosmic Bard, at a Cosmic Bard. Now, having said that, with using your best tinfoil cap or your best theoreticians or mathematic insertions to equations, what do you think the chances are? You know, everyone, me, 6 times, 5 or 6 times, I've seen UFOs. Do I know they're aliens? I have no fucking idea. But in terms of alien civilizations, absent UFOs or USOs, do you believe, Jeff Stoner, that we have that there are alien civilizations extant that are, well, they'd have to be, if they're a space-faring civilization, they would have to be above us. Do you think they exist?
50-50 odds.
Okay. But then doesn't it?
Here's the one thing I always say when asked this question, and it is the hardest truth I think you might hate hearing. There is a legitimate chance that we are the furthest advanced civilization in the universe.
That's rather staggering, to be honest.
Because of the things that you mentioned. How many civilizations have come before us in different universe or different galaxies and solar systems and all that didn't get past the atomic age?
Right. That's self-annihilated.
Yes. Yes. So there is I hate saying it, it is one of my favorite sayings, a greater than 0% chance that we are the single most advanced living civilization at this moment. Now, that said, do I think there are civilizations out there that are advanced? Absolutely. But I would be remiss if I didn't mention also that there is a possibility we are it. We are the leading cause of what people will eventually aspire to.
Yeah, okay. But again, I was raised on science fiction. The first science fiction book I ever picked up was the 1963 Ace paperback publication of Frank Herbert's Dune.
Mm.
And when I read that book, I still have that original paperback. It was like, I don't know, 35 cents, 50 cents maybe, because it was so damn thick in 1963. I've been a huge consumer of science fiction ever since. And it rattles my brain to think that in infinity, well, or perhaps I should say, it saddens me to think that in this vast, vast realm, we're it, Bubba.
Yeah, I'm not saying we're the only life.
I know, but doesn't it?
But yet, to think that we could be the leader, and as far as technology, is frightening to think about.
That's scary. That is scary.
It truly is. I know people love to throw the term Goldilocks around, and I'm not a big fan of the Drake equation. While it's great to get a rough probability factor out of it, the FL part of the equation is the fraction of those planets where life actually develops. We have so limited understanding of what life could look like. Like, are we the only life in our own solar system, or the possibility of microbes existing on Mars, on the planet Io, on there's even theories that there might have been at one point, on the planet Pluto. I'm sorry, Pluto is a planet. I have to say that. But do microbes count? What all is truly life? And without understanding the idea of what is the possibility of life's existence, that equation falls flat completely on the probability scale. But it is still a great and the best thing we have as of today to give us an idea of where we could be among the trillions times trillions of planets that could host life in the universe that we know of.
Well, Nikolai Kardashev came up with the Kardashev scale in
Oh,
1964.
I love that.
And it's a really unique way of attempting to measure or conceptualize the possibility of other civilizations.
Yes.
But in a much really kind of cool way, because before you and I agreed and said, because I learned this in science fiction, okay, you got to survive your atomics and you got to survive your AI.
Yes.
Both of which envelopes are being pushed RTFN right the fuck now. So how do we? That said, look at this over here. And again, I wish I could embiggen this because, on the replay or during this thing live, but I'll read it. The Kardashev scale basically says a type 1 civilization is able to access all the energy available on its planet and store it for consumption. So this isn't a measurement of intelligence or what killed you. This is a measurement of what you do with your energy that you possess locally. A type 2 civilization, again, a type 2 civilization, this is like, can directly consume a star's energy, most likely through the use of a Dyson sphere. We can get to that if necessary. Yeah. A type 3 civilization, again, this is all so much. This is able to capture all the energy emitted by its galaxy and every object within it, such as every star, every black hole. And then it says, under the scale, the sum of human civilization does not reach type 1, though it continues to approach it. Various extensions of the scale have been proposed, including a wider range of power levels. But I think, on its face, on its own level, the Kardashev scale is something that in and of itself is a really, that's why I love talking to you guys. People that are into physics, science, the universe are really cool cats to think of stuff like this, like the Kardashev scale. It's just
I love the Kardashev scale.
Great.
It is half of the equation that I think truly sums up where we're at. On the Kardashev scale, we're probably at a 0.8, maybe a 0.9. We're close to becoming a tier 1 civilization. And it's kind of scary to think about it. But in an answer to Kardashev's scale, Carl Sagan put out his own scale based on information consumption and availability. And I don't know, the last time I checked up the Sagan scale was probably 2 years ago. And I want to say we were maybe a K on an A to Z scale for that. With the way AI has advanced in the last year, I can't imagine how many leaps and bounds that we have jumped past the letter K on his scale. And it's interesting to ascertain the probabilities of, okay, if you're a 0.8, but you're on a H scale on the Sagan scale, are you more likely to destroy yourself? Or if you're a 0.8, but you're at an R on the Sagan scale, are you more likely to survive it? Because the wealth of information available kind of dictates, hey, if we keep going a certain path, we will end up destroying ourselves. So the between the two, the Sagan and the Kardashev scale, I think we actually have a really good basis of what we should be looking for and ideas of where we fit into our solar system, our galaxy, and maybe other galaxies once we definitively make contact.
Folks, I'm BZ. That is Jeff Stoner over there. at a cosmic bard of the lost wanderer. And as I stated at the very beginning of the show, not all who wander are lost, not necessarily. So we're going to take a break, come right back. When we do, I'd like to talk about the Fermi paradox and then go over a couple of videos, which I thought, again, are tonight, folks. If I haven't done at least one time, if I haven't done this to you tonight, then I'm not doing my damn job at all. So we'll be right back. Folks, I am BZ. You are in the saloon tonight. And tonight I have the great honor of speaking to Jeff Stoner right here, a gentleman with all time, without doubt, one of the best names in the biz, as we say. Let me see if I can go over to this. Let's talk about the Fermi paradox, which these are all kind of linked in some fashion. Just these gentlemen are looking at things differently. And the paradox, which is, I'll throw out another multisyllabic word. A paradox is kind of like a conundrum, and a conundrum is kind of like a paradox. Only a paradox has a longer tail, if I'm not mistaken, and a conundrum has claws. So now that you know the difference between the two, I think that sums it up. The Fermi paradox is the discrepancy between the lack of conclusive evidence of an advanced extraterrestrial life and the apparently high likelihood of its existence. Those affirming the paradox generally conclude that if the conditions required for life to arise from non-living matter are as permissive as the available evidence on life indicates, then extraterrestrial life would be sufficiently common that it would be implausible for it to have been detected. So if that hasn't blown your brain housing group up just yet, one of the first things that I think that you have to consider is, how did life get here? First, you have to be considerate of the beginning of life. There are two schools. There are two camps. I don't know, Jeff Stoner, what you believe in. I happen to believe in God, not man. And I'm not a big believer in organized religion. But I don't think that there is a conflict in terms of, to me, that the universe was created. It had to be created somehow. And if it happened to be, and we can scientifically prove that it dates back to the Big Bang, then who's to say that at one point a benevolent God didn't say, okay, Big Bang, over here. But having theorized that, you always have to go back to what is the light. Now, you have to start at the start in terms of, okay, well, our atomics are going to blow us up and our AI is going to kill us. What is the likelihood of the combination, like a Star Trek Class M planet? What is the likelihood of life having started on some kind of a Goldilocks planet, kind of similar sort of to Earth, we are carbon based. What if way over there is a planet whose life is silicon based?
Mm-hmm.
We don't know. Will we? But see, there are all these questions that people ask. So in your estimation, Jeff Stoner, is the Fermi paradox just kind of another, well, it's kind of like a mind game. We're going to play around a little bit and we'll postulate all these things, but we're not really going anywhere.
It is a mind game, but I'm not saying it's a bad mind game. The part of the Fermi that I love is the zoo hypothesis, where we are being watched like zoo animals, but we're not being interacted with.
Okay.
Now,
wait. I like that one too.
The hardest part I have in all of this is time and space and the ability to communicate. Like when we look at say Alpha Centauri, that's 4.2 light years away. When we look at Alpha Centauri today, we are looking at it from the year 2021.
Okay.
So we're always years behind of what we're seeing. So if a planet is 1,000 light years away, we're in year, 1025 when we look at them, or when they look at us. So if an advanced planet is looking at us from 1,000 light years away, they're going to see us, fighting medieval battles, who have no idea that the radio signal is even going to be a possibility in their, within the next 700, 800 years. So there is that finite window that I love about this paradox, because it sums it up that, yeah, there could be, trillions upon trillions of habitable planets out there with life on it, but to be able to converse and see each other is like two ships passing in the Atlantic with no navigational ability.
Let me ask you this. And I have two questions that just popped. And the first one is, I heard as a child, and do not know the veracity of this at all, but I can remember a teacher probably in the 60s saying something similar to, okay, you see that star up there? That light that you're seeing right here, right now, originated from a star back when the Egyptians were building the pyramids. Mm-hmm. And that in and of itself, that again, even as a child, that thing was absolutely, to me, it's like, what? You got to be kidding. So is that's in the ballpark then, is it not?
Yes, absolutely. Because light is information. And until we find ways, and there are theories out there that can send information faster than light, but until we can send information faster than light, then that is accurate.
Here's a video that I want to play that I thought, in terms of relationships, is again pretty brain-blowing.
Have you ever wondered about the scale of the universe? It's very hard to get your head around the sheer size of space. It's very difficult to get that visualization. So I thought I'd have a go today. Now, if we shrunk the sun down to, say, the size of roughly a golf ball, which is about 4 centimeters across, just over 1.5 inches, how far away would the next nearest star be? Now, bear in mind that the sun is over 100 times the diameter of the Earth. On this scale, the Earth is about 4 meters away from the sun and about the size of a grain of sand. Neptune, the furthest planet, is all the way over the other side of the park over there and is still pretty tiny, about 1 millimeter across. So how far is the next nearest star? Quite a long way. I think I'm going to need to get in my car for this.
I hope you put the golf ball down.
Right?
You're short and your mother dresses you funny. Anyway, let's just say it's lengthy. But it's stuff like that that I find absolutely astounding. Here's another one that I like visual. I'm a visual learner. Most people are. So you can be a verbal, an audio learner, a hands-on learner, or you can be visual. I like all of it. Here's relative velocities, speed to scale. Look at the Milky Way relative to cosmic microwave background, Earth rotation, and Earth rotating around the sun. See, it's stuff like that that just blow me away. That just, this is, you, damn.
The scale. People
scale.
really cannot fathom it. Like, when it comes to Alpha Centauri being 4.2 light years away, you have to look back at the Voyager 1 probe. Was it 71, 72?
Take a look at that galaxy.
At its current rate of travel, which is about 17 kilometers per second, it's the farthest object away from Earth that is man-made. It would take, at that speed, 70,000 years to get to Proxima Centauri and Alpha Centauri. And it's the farthest thing we've made in the last 50 years. It has traveled the furthest in 50 years. 70,000 years to get to.
But it's just, as you indicate, the scale is just, it staggers and beggars the imagination. Now,
It does.
I shipped this question out because I was in the process of attempting to write probably what turned out to be an extremely horrible science fiction novel. But one question that I had for my terrible bad guys was, I wanted my bad guys, my aliens, to be so alien they were going to be silicon in nature, but they were so far away from any civilization that they came from a planet, not a star, just a planet, where it was so extensive. God, I don't even know how to say this, where there was no light. They were raised, they existed in darkness, total darkness. Light from whatever nearest star never got to them. That's how shockingly far away from everything they were. So, I thought, okay, that'd be interesting for a unique alien, a big alien threat. Is that possible? Is that humanly possible for something to be so far away in the infinity of the universe that there's a point to which light has not even reached?
Yes.
See, and again, does that not just to hear you say that, it's like,
there are rogue planets all over the universe that are not attached to a sun. And I'm going to get political again, sorry. What I hate about the climate change mentality is everyone forgets how hot the center of the Earth actually is. So if there is no heat, no light coming from a sun, you would gravitate toward your planet's core to get that heat. And who knows what is underneath that core with that heat interacting with water, that your basis of life is going to be centered around that, where they may not have eyes.
Right, because they don't know what light is, or
Yes.
we're not necessary.
Yes. So as you get closer to a planet's core, you're going to get heat, and that can be enough, because it can often be radioactive heat, that you will get a bunch of different scenarios that are possible that we would never know that exist at the current moment, but the probabilities of it actually existing are there.
See, all of these things that we're addressing tonight, and again, it's such a great wealth of information, and it's just a super pleasure to speak to somebody that knows what they're talking about in terms of science, which is why, again, folks, if you want to find a podcast, here's my recommendation. The Lost Wanderer. You can find him on KLRN, and I'm guessing wherever good podcasts can be found.
Absolutely.
Okay. Because the other thing is, if you have a bad podcast, they're the ones that soil the newspapers and eat your parakeet. So bad podcasts. Don't want to have anything to do with those podcasts. That is very bad. But the other thing that I wondered about is, in its infinity, and I'm really having a tough time tonight trying to quantify my questions, because all of this is so much fun and does in fact just explode all over the place. But this also came up where somebody said, okay, well, there used to be aliens in our galaxy, but they killed themselves off. And again, they're talking about the Fermi paradox. And I'm also going back to, well, just the issue of forming life in the perfect soup is such a staggering percentile, small percentile. And then you have the hurdles of atomics, AI, and whatever the hell anybody else might throw into the mix. But all of these things, while being somewhat theoretical, also go back to, because Jeff, you knew I was going to go here sooner or later. You knew I had to go here. I have seen UFOs. I do not know. And as you can see, I'm a member of MUFON because I wear a tinfoil hat, only it's made of cloth these days. Are there extraterrestrials, do you think, have perhaps visited Earth in consideration of all the other equations and paradoxi that we have spoken about previously? Is it possible?
Possible? Absolutely. Absolutely. And there are in my mind, three distinct possibilities of it. One is it's aliens from another solar system or universe or galaxy or something of that nature. The second one is it is us from another universe. So in the multiverse theory, there's a million of us existing at all times. And what if one of our multiverse universes didn't blow itself up and managed to get to a point where it could travel to other multi-universes through the quantum field that they're visiting to see what that universe looks like? And the third one is time travel. That the UFOs we see are nothing but us from the year 3000.
Zager and Evans. In the year 3510. Okay, boy, am I dating the shit out of myself with that. Oh my!
And it always frustrates me that time travel is often like the forgotten redheaded stepchild of UFOs. because Einstein's general relativity theory proves time travel is possible. And it's even demonstrated in some theories with closed time-like curves within the black hole, where if you're at the event horizon and you happen to make a loop, you will actually be able to travel back in time, albeit you're looking at seconds, not years. But the fact that it is mathematically provable that you can do it means that the UFOs that people see, and I'm right there with you, I have seen them, doesn't mean that they're not us from the future. And I hate that people kind of just poo-poo that.
I have said on any number of times, especially in light of the fact that we're discovering that the government still has some machines that are running on COBOL, which again, and I'm going to do this because I just kind of like doing it. It's like stuff running on COBOL in 2025. How does that happen? But I also postulated that we're going to get to the point to AI and or the digital world where somebody somewhere is going to want to build a time machine, go back and kill Admiral Grace Hopper, who was the inventor of COBOL, which then turned into the ones and the zeros, the open and the shut, and that kind of thing. Then, of course, I'm going to lead you here because we got about 10 minutes left in the show. I don't want to go over. I want to keep myself in the 2-hour span for Rick Robinson and KLRN. So I kind of fit in a niche. Although I am large enough that I do, in fact, have my own gravitational pull, as so kindly pointed out by Sean Lewis, Edge of Liberty, bastard. So this leads me, okay, you mentioned wormholes. I had this article already up. I didn't know we were going to go into wormholes, but I was thinking about that tonight. But the other thing is, let me take this down right now. Is FTL, faster than light travel, possible and not just a theory?
Yes.
So to speak, because I also went in the process of researching tonight this, Star Trek's warp drive. Is that possible? So many people have said you cannot go faster than the speed of light, which is 166,000 feet per second.
Yeah.
Did I get that right?
Yes. You just entered my wheelhouse.
Okay. Then open that door and walk on through, sir.
So, can mass go faster than the speed of light? No. But there is a physicist in the 90s, Miguel Alcubierre, who was a tremendous Star Trek fan, who said faster than light travel has to be possible because we know it exists, because the universe is expanding at faster than light. There is 7 trillion years, 7 billion years, I forget the exact number. The universe will have spread so far that we won't be able to see other galaxies. So knowing that space itself travels faster than light means there has to be a mathematical possibility that we can travel faster than light. So Miguel Alcubierre, what he theorized and did the math for, and the math is checking out. You don't move the ship, you move the space. So when Star Trek said warp drive engage, what that does is create a bubble around your vehicle and warps the space-time around you. So you never feel the inertia of traveling faster than light, but the space around you carrying you is moving faster than light. Now, when he first did the math on this, the power consumption was roughly the size of the universe. But further tweaks have gotten it down to smaller than the energy and matter of Jupiter. So as time goes by, the energy requirements are getting less and less and less. The one flaw in his theory is he needs negative mass and negative energy to make it happen. And to date, we do not know if that actually exists completely or in enough quantity for it to happen. But mathematically, it is 100% a viable means of travel that Einstein's theories also have proven is accurate. So we will eventually get there. And a God, I can't remember the two people's names. There is a group in Germany at the Max Planck Institute of Physics that are working on negating the negative energy and mass that is needed to make the Miguel Alcubierre drive a reality.
So then going back to this, to traversable wormholes, and you mentioned folding space or a sphere of, God, I'm not even going to try to replicate what you said. It's like, screw it. It's late at night, BZ. You're going to have a hard time trying to even think of anything. And this guy's smarter than you are, so just shut up and move along. But traversable wormholes could be an entry point over here.
Yes.
And an exit way over there.
Yes.
Near where you want to go.
Mathematically, yes. The biggest hurdle of wormhole travel right now is the gravity inside the wormhole itself. Right now, our understanding of wormholes is it would rip us apart within a nanosecond. But we will find a way.
It's just theoretical stuff. Fun to write about if you're a science fiction author.
Yes.
Interesting in terms of conjecture.
Well, and not even necessarily conjecture, because there is math that proves the possibility of it. So I wouldn't bet against any of Einstein's theories at this point. So if Einstein says, yes, it's absolutely possible to go through a wormhole, I'm going to trust him. It's just us a matter of finding a way to do it.
Or a guy that has a 288 PC charge from California, always spell it with a K hanging over his head. And I volunteered him. This has been a great show. And I fear that I is going to have to wrap this up. So, however, I always ask my good guests this, as I must with you as well. Would you, sir, Jeff Stoner, ever consider coming back to the Saloon? Because this is just an little infinitesimal amount of stuff that I think would be just way cool to talk to you about sometime. And I never really, although I have had these experiences, and I even wrote them down. I drew little diagrams on pieces of paper when these happened, when I saw my little UFO sightings. It would be fun to discuss those things with you.
Absolutely.
Anything and everything. So again, let me remind everyone in a reminding fashion that if you want to, let me go over here. If you want to find Jeff Stoner, go here. And I'm guessing, correct me if I'm wrong, this is your primary social media point?
Yes.
Is X? Yes. Okay. So folks, go to X, if you're on X Twitter, and put in at a cosmic bard, and you will see this site. And it tells you about him right here, and then you can flip down and see a bunch of stuff. Hey, look, there's his show right there. Hey, look, there's his show right there. And so on. Lost Wanderer, a lot of stuff cool stuff to go. By the way, China is asshole. I stole that. Honestly.
I even have my own theme music whenever I talk about China on that show.
Excellente. Absolutely excellente. So I got to have you back. This was a 1 metric ton of fun.
Thank you.
And this is a visual. let me get this thing out of here right now. This is a visual because it was, you could say, you can quantify it in terms of, well, that was a metric ton of fun. Or you could also say it was an ass load of fun. So depending upon your ass load, it could be something as small as this or something to have an ass load that you simply cannot grasp within the vision right here. And that is an ass load. Just saying. So, Jeff Stoner, anything that you would care to say in conclusion and or remind people when do you have a new show about to break?
Okay. Yes. This weekend, actually, I have a new show coming for one of my other lesser podcasts where I only do once a month. In the Crease, where I talk occasionally Bigfoot, Wendigos, things of that nature, or historical events. I'm actually going to be talking about two brothers from the Finnish World War II. I'm really excited to bring this because I love Finland. I know how to read and write Finnish.
Oh,
so
okay.
I'm looking forward to doing that show. And then the following Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern will be the next Lost Wanderer podcast.
Nice. Now, all during the night, people have been making just absolutely wonderful and occasionally salacious comments. This is a great one. Folding space makes it easier to put in the linen closet. And that's really good if you have like a studio apartment or something like that. I think that's of primary consideration. So also MD Campbell, who was a doctor, obviously, come on, MD, said, kudos to your great guest tonight for being here. And so thanks to everyone. Hey, Cheetah was here. Maybe he was kind of kibitzing in a kibitzingly kind of fashion as I kibitz when I am on Edge of Liberty with Sean Lewis, only in a kibitzing type fashion. So Cheetah, you were here. Ricky, Unleash Jeremy Hansen. Great show tonight. And sadly, you heard the deal from this man right here. He's going to be having another podcast. And if you want to watch, you can see him, as I point out again, at Lost Wanderer. And you can also find him at KLRN with the stellar, see what I did there, Ricky Robinson, KLRN Radio. So thank you kindly for being here tonight. I greatly appreciate it. And this is the point where I say something similar to... So, ladies, gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, thanks for being here tonight, listening to BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show, live and direct right here on Rumble, the SHR Media YouTube channel, X, Twitch at KLRN Radio, and also the as I want to say, the munificently grandiose KLRN under the guise and tutelage of, I like that word, tutelage, of Ricky Robinson. And so, as per normal, I should also care to point out that promotional consideration is once again by the Lockheed Martin Skunk Works, by Shure and Electro Voice microphones, by the makers of my board, the Arrakis Talk Blue, and also Pratt & Whitney engines producing Thrust. You can trust. And also, my tiaras are by My Little Pony. Thanks tonight again to coolest name in the world, coolest name in the podcast world, Jeff Stoner. And finally, thanks to my personal KC-135 Kettle One refueling team, with whom I shall be consorting in less than 10 minutes. Folks, thanks for being here tonight. God bless. Take care. Be safe. I may have another show. I'm considering another show. Maybe Saturday night or Sunday night, because I've got so much. I have so much politics backed up right now. It gives me gas. So you really don't. I have delayed borborygmus. You don't want to be around me right now. And with that, I say, folks, good night.
Hello, friends. Do you have a moment so that we may discuss our Lord and Savior Minarchy? No, seriously, I'm just kidding. Hi, my name's Rick Robinson. I am the general manager of KLRNradio.com. We are probably the largest independent podcast network that you've never heard of. We have a little bit of everything, and by that, what I mean to tell you is we have news, pop culture, special events, conspiratainment, true crime, mental health shows, drama productions, and pretty much everything in between. So if you're looking for a new podcast home to grab a little bit of everything that you love all in one place, come check us out. You can find us on X under @KLRNradio. You can find us on our Rumble and our YouTube channels under the same names. You can also find us at KLRNradio.com and pretty much every podcast catcher known to man. So again, feel free to come check us out anytime you like at KLRN Radio.